You were quite impressive.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Eric,
I'm Ty.
and we are ShantottoCast, coming to you from the internet, actually.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually why we're ending. We're stuck in Animal Crossing,
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
we're
rough.
we're tr- hopefully this one makes it out there. The computers in this game only show the same image over and over, so we'll see. But
Yeah,
you know,
editing video is gonna be a nightmare.
recording equipment, which I really like. Animal Crossing New Horizons is really fun. You should play it and give me all of your turnips.
Yeah, for sure. But getting into the thick of things here,
Yeah.
before these
So
animals
jumping
overrun
from
us.
something, yeah, to go into something completely unrelated. So it's been a while, Eric, since we've done a sequel episode. It's been so long that we've never done one.
Yeah, right. And
One
funny
of
enough
those.
that we're starting with a sequel to our first episode, with our
Ooh,
first
and
sequel.
it only took us 15 episodes.
Yeah, but
And
here we are
we're
a year
already
later.
pashing up old ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanted to do this in the first video, if I remember correctly. We say like, "Hey, like we want to do this like Opus 10." And
Yeah.
we said like, "Yeah, we want to try to do this every like 5 opuses, opie," as I always like to joke about. And now's the time. We're at the end. Well, obviously the Opus 10 meta is dead. It's done. It's over. We already have Opus 11. People are already brewing up while we're still in the middle of this coronavirus. But I think it's time for a good recap.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've had a lot of development in that last year. It's been a crazy
Yeah.
ride.
Yeah, it is insane because like there's just some decks on here that like it's weird to think that they were relevant less than a year ago.
Yeah, right? It feels
Now
almost
they're
like.
just gone.
Well, I mean, it also feels like we started this podcast a forever ago, too.
Yeah, and it hasn't even been a year. It's just I think it's just short of a year right now.
It's just short. No, actually. Well, no, we're in
Did
April.
we break a year?
Yeah, we broke a year. It's past it. It's in April.
Oh wow.
We're in April.
Woo! All right, Eric, edit little like confetti falling from the top.
I will try and find that effect, yes. Congratulations, us. But here we are.
Our 1 year episode.
Yeah, it's
or
our
1 year
1 year anniversary.
Ooh.
So here we are checking out the newest meta stuff from, well, right after we did our last meta-analysis video.
Yeah.
And
Our last
so,
meta analysis ended right before Opus 8. So we're going to be picking back up from Opus 8.
And so our first major tournament for Opus 8 here that we're looking at is the Gold Saucer Cup Shiva Trial. And the decks here are kind of interesting. The names are clearly, as you can see, kind of entertaining. People never fail to deliver with good names of decks.
Of course.
And so in first place, though, we see Seventh Heaven, which is a deck that it's version 8.2, as this person named it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the first big successes, if I'm looking at our notes correctly, of
Yeah.
the Final Fantasy VII tribal massive EX deck do really well.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's kind of funny looking back at it now because that's a deck that we still plug for people to build because it's still super cheap.
Yep.
But at the same time, it hasn't really performed since then.
Yeah.
But this was the one that like really put it on the table. This is the one that everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is a really good deck."
Yeah, and and keep in mind that this is before not only the Dottaluma ban, but even before talks of the Dottaluma ban. And we see a lot of Earth in this meta. Well, in this particular event. Still, Opus 5 Legend Cecil is the most played card in this event. 10 copies across 4 decks. And not a lot of people are running Veritas yet.
This is one thing that I will brag about and I will flex on is when Opus 8 got spoiled and revealed, I called it. I was like, Veritas is an insane card. Veritas is so good, guys. And everybody was kind of lukewarm on it. People were more focusing on the rain. But I was like, no, guys, Veritas is like nuts. and people were just kind of lukewarm on him. And in this first tournament, we kind of saw people were still a little lukewarm on him when the set came out. Like, this was like right after the set really became legal. And I think we saw one across all of these decks, one or two.
There's one. Let me see. In Vino Veritas.
Let's see,
I believe that one's gonna have Veritas. Yeah, we see two copies in this deck. And of course, a Commonot to search it out, and a Sin, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
But everything else in this deck is pretty standard wind, earth.
Yeah, that was the only deck in that tournament running Veritas. There's only 2 Veritas in that deck, or in like the top 8 of this tournament, which, like, literally a month after that tournament would have been insane.
Absolutely, yeah. That deck that card blew up immensely. Became actually became the most expensive card in the game for a short while.
Yeah, a very short while, but a short while.
Yeah. So moving on from this event, we are going to the Final Fantasy North America Fire Crystal Cup. And so here... Go ahead. Go ahead, Ty.
Like, literally, you go ahead, Eric.
You go ahead.
No, so, I'm just gonna jump to the last point, because we're still on that train a little bit. Like, this was 15 days after the Shiva Cup. In 15 days, there went from 2 Veritas in top 8 to 13 copies across 6 decks.
Yeah, let that sink in. Open the door, allow the sink to walk through it.
Yeah. Just bring it all in, sit it down at the dinner table, and eat it. Like, that means that every 6 decks were running at least 2 copies.
Yep. But aside from Veritas being such a big contender now, we saw Death Machine Control doing really well, but this is prior to the errata. If I remember correctly, this is the event that sparked the whole discussion about that card, kind of leading it to being the catalyst to it being announced as of having an errata by the designers.
Yeah, because there was a little talk of it. I remember some people were like, it's kind of confusingly worded, but that was more so like opinion, It was more so people just being like, it's a weird effect, it probably shouldn't operate like that, but it does.
Yeah, it was more of an interpretation, and we were given an interpretation with the errata.
Yeah, and it was really funny that this deck it literally took this deck topping for them to say, oh wait, you guys actually didn't get the right version. That's not what it says on international versions of the card.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, they let the person who had the deck and was running it, or the 2 people, they let the people who had those victories, or those top placements, keep those top placements, because honestly the wording is on the design team, not on the players. And if judges didn't know any better, then what are you going to do?
Yeah, because it was just outright like how the card was worded. People were playing it how it was worded. We didn't know that it was actually a mistranslation.
Right. And then we see that immediately that card stops being played.
Yeah.
Because it's just not as good.
It just completely lacks a competitive history after this single tournament.
Yep.
Which is hilarious.
But yeah, so interestingly enough, we see Mono Water flexing the top 2 positions in this event, which is ironic for a Fire Crystal Cup. But yeah, I mean Water was pretty good at that time.
Yeah, because Water at the time got Nicole, who was a very, very good card. They got the 3-drop Leviathan, which was a very good card. What else is from? Those, and then Veritas as well. The deck that actually came in first was running 3 Veritas. If that just kind of shows how powerful that card was when it came out.
Yeah, and also keep in mind a lot of these players in this event were high-level players that got top 8.
Yeah,
like we can see a lot of these names here. These are very familiar names for most people who've been in the scene for a while.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It'd be a surprise if they weren't on the forefront of developing the meta.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm looking at both of the top 2 lists, and there's not that much different between them. They seem like relatively similar lists. But this is when like Mono Water was like really good, because people were running Layla Vikings
Right, yeah, that was still huge back then,
Yeah.
especially because you could use the Veritas to break your Vikings and draw a card and then immediately replace the Viking for another draw.
Yeah. Yeah. If the opponent played a Veritas against you, it was Mono Water was a great option against Veritas
Mm-hmm.
because you were fine with losing stuff.
Yeah, the deck actually really wanted to lose stuff.
Yeah, and that deck was just really good at just kind of staying ahead. Yeah, but outside of that, there was a little bit of everything else outside of the two Mono Waters. We see, it's loading up for me. We're seeing Death Machine Control, jokingly called Mono Ice, which is Earth Wind, a Water Earth build, a Mono Lightning build, and then the Final Fantasy VII EX deck.
Yeah, so about what we'd expect to see for that time period.
Yeah.
Definitely. No surprises, nothing too huge. And then moving forward,
a variation. While Earth, Wind. I assume people knew it was dominant. It was dominant at this point, almost.
Yeah, it was coming back because it disappeared for like a set.
Yeah. But yeah, let's move on to the next tournament, which was the Grand Open Ghent.
Yep.
Card Market Series.
Card Market Series. And here we see, interesting, we see a mono wind build with both light and dark cards thrown in.
I remember this was like crazy when this deck came out. Because I remember like sitting down at a table with Jeff and just be like, how do you feel about running Yuri and Veritas?
Yeah, no, this deck was very much spicy.
Yeah. But otherwise, a lot of the things that you kind of expected to see at the time, there was mono water, more mono water, earth wind again, fire ice, which was new at the time. If I'm correct, this is one of the first times that we see it. This isn't the 6-centric build I'm noticing, but
I also think it's worth noting that the wind and earth decks are now starting to splash other colors.
Yeah.
For a little bit of variety here. People are discovering, hey, it's not a bad thing to throw in a little bit of fire to, cast some fire.
For literally Phoenix and nothing else.
Exactly. And this is the beginning of a trend.
Yeah. Oh, this was the first deck that really started using Urianger.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, this was
being able to pitch your Cactars early or your Laix early and be able to fetch them back with your one Urianger that you got from Chaos. It was handy.
Yeah, it was a very spicy little engine, and it kind of became the standard for this deck until the Dottaluma ban later.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. But we'll get to that.
We will get there.
Otherwise, we see Ice Earth, which is already using the Flan engine. A person was even trying out Scale Toad in here. We see Nidhogg. Garland 9 was seeing a little play. I think that's kind of the first and last time that we really see him see play outside of Tax's decks. But otherwise, relatively standard lists. Once again, the Mono Water, Earth Ice. It's what you expected at the time. The real Sidewinder was Fire Ice.
Right, yeah. This was this deck was kind of odd to see. And the name didn't help.
Yeah.
But this became the standard for a very short little while. It was pretty cool and pretty fun to see. A lot of people seemed to like it. I built a different variation on this that wasn't actually at all similar. But it was one of those things that you did have to keep your eye out for around that period of time.
Yeah.
So, but moving on, unless you got something else to say?
Yeah, let's jump to... Oh, no, that's it. I was going to say, let's just jump over to the next one.
All right, cool. So next, we have the Water Cup, or Water Crystal Cup in the UK.
And the iconic 15 Backups Master Race deck.
Here it is.
Yeah, this deck was, it was quite the thing. A lot of people were talking about it at the time.
Oh, that's funny. I still have it favorited on FFX.
Yeah, because it was the idea of running 15 backups just seemed it didn't seem like so extreme, but it was like 15 backups, really? Like that's all you want to run?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it did well. It literally just um it just kind of steamrolled its way to victory. It was, as always, like Dalaluma Cactar showing off how powerful it is, but with all these other insane cards. Aparuru, which they just came out at the time. Opus 8 Aerith. Veritas makes an appearance in this deck.
Yeah, basically
Like,
this deck focused on everything that was extremely crucial and important and just nixed what it
Yeah.
wasn't. And effectively what it came down to was the backups weren't important.
yeah. Yeah, it was. And another interesting thing about this deck is it's running so many one of backups. We've got a 3 of Star Sibyl, 3 of Miyun, 2 of Semilafina, and just 1 of everything else.
Yep, because everything else was effectively a one-time use.
Yeah.
You really only needed it once, and if you get it in damage, you adapt.
Yeah, yeah.
So this deck,
Yeah,
this deck
like
was
literally the only. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. You good?
The only reason he's running 3 Star Sibyl is just so he can add Ajido, Aparu, and Shantotto.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing else mattered.
But it was a really good deck, clearly, and it showed everybody else who's boss.
And it was also running the 1 of Dark Fina, which I remember like always caught me off guard.
Wait, the what?
The 1 of Dark Fina.
Oh, sorry. You meant the name Dark Fina. I was like, there isn't a dark-colored Fina. It's ice.
Oh yeah.
There's I was
yeah,
like,
no.
the dark. Yeah, there's ice and there's wind. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Of course.
Man, I feel
But-
stupid now. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that Dark Fina was such a weird card, and it still is a weird card. But at the same time, I was able to fetch Diabolos, which was like an insane card in this, or not. It was able to search Diabolos and play it for free, and was also able to search and play Phoenix,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
which
massive.
was like an insane card at the time.
Dark Fina was it's a win harder card,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
Or
but to be able to Dark Fina into Zidane, or Dark Fina Phoenix into Zidane, or Y'shtola, or Noctis, or Galdus was just such a hit.
it's a hard comeback or a hard win card.
Yeah.
So, but it was it was solid. We see Crystal Chronicles Wind, surprise, surprise, coming back and hitting hard again.
Largely considered like one of the best decks of that time, just mono wind.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, getting first and second these two decks out of 132 people, that is quite a gauntlet to go through. Granted, you're not fighting all of them, obviously, but that's a lot of rounds. It's I think that's like an 8 rounds before top cut.
Yeah,
8, 9. That's a lot.
Yeah,
So-
it is a lot.
So I mean, that's
Very long top cut.
I'm gonna say that's nuts. But moving on, because we've basically seen everything else here, we can go over to the U.S. Octagon Open, which was an online tournament using the Octagon client.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, right? But here we see a whack ton of water and ice.
Yeah.
Little bit of fire. Little fire.
Yeah, mind you, we're looking at top 4 instead of top 8.
Correct. Yeah, but it was 7 rounds of Swiss prior with 96 participants overall.
Yeah.
So, and for an event that you don't need to, you could buy into, but anything is viable, right? It's online.
Yeah.
You have access to every single card in the game without restriction. And, these are the decks that won.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just starts off strong. Like, once again, these are like the standard water decks. Number 1, not too far off from what we saw before. 3 Nicole, 3 Lena, 3 Knight, 3 Viking, 3 Poor. I just realized that the entire forward lineup is entirely 3 ofs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, the essential summons, Fanfret and Caholen, 4-drop at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then once again, just the essential backup: Scholar, Yuna, Artemisian, Gladiator, Waka, Braun, Merleweb, Banderin, which was kind of a tech choice, and then same with Gramps. But Gramps was mainly... No, I thought Gramps was a Veritas tech, but I think I'm wrong.
Let me double check let me go look at that card again.
It's when he
Gramps.
enters the field, draw a card.
I think it's just for the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the X. Like, it's... like
I mean, the
mono
EX,
water
but
at the time was very strong. I think it's still very strong. I feel like it's just kind of fallen off.
yeah, it right now in the
Um,
meta of a slow game, it's more prone to decking out.
yeah,
So it's more of a liability than a payoff with a risk with a payoff.
yeah, yeah. And
So
then after that was Vice Kings, which we've kind of seen scattered out so far. But this was like a kind of definitive build of Vice Kings. This is what we kind of really got used to seeing. The one Sid Reigns, the two Black Mage, which was like kind of a spicy card at the time. Uh, Cards that you just generally want to flicker. It was running 3 Renoa, 3 Veritas, 3 Sephiroth. Um, and you just have tons of flicker targets in here. Every forward in this deck is a good flicker target, with the
yeah,
exception of the Black Mage.
and the inclusion of snow in the backup line is also standard, but still scary as hell.
Yeah, yeah, because just being able to play Layla, get a Viking, flicker Layla, get another Viking, and being able to know that if you swing in with any of those, you're going to dull something.
Yep.
You have the option to dull 3 basically whenever you want is nuts.
Yeah, especially with the little weenies that your opponent wants them to die because it's
Yeah.
getting stuff off the field, is milling you out. But here you are saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna get milled out. I'm gonna do damage."
I'm going to overwhelm you before you can mill me out.
Exactly. And the inclusion here of Jill Nabat backup is huge because let's also note that Fasoya backup was a huge staple at the time.
Yeah.
It was kind
was
of coming off it's the tail end of that era, but it was still a big deal.
Yeah, and another big thing was Jill Nabat protected you against Mono Wind. Because Mono Wind at the time was running the FFCC engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a Hull Nilim that could basically, if you had a Chilink out, could just wipe your board. Because that's just dealing 3k to your board. Which, unless you have Walkout, which this deck wasn't running, you just don't have an answer to. But that one Jill Nabat was good enough to just be able to beat out a lot of Mono Wind decks.
Yeah.
After that, your only real threat is Yuri, really.
I mean, when you can a single card shut down a whole deck, that's I mean, that's pretty. It's a pretty big deal. I don't know.
Or a very strong part of a very good deck.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Can't argue that. But moving on from the Octagon Open.
Oh wait, really quick.
What's up?
Before we leave Octagon Open.
Okay.
This was the first time, if I'm correct, that we saw Fire Ice 6.
Is it really?
Because this is the set where we saw Duncan, who wasn't a super duper important card to the deck, but he helped. We saw Cloud. What other Opus 8? We saw Opus 8 Celeste, which was a very good card. I know there's Opus 8 Setzer. Like, this is really the Opus 8 was the deck or the set that kind of pushed
that's
6
right.
tribal over.
You're right. Yeah. Well,
Fun deck. It hasn't kept up that much, but it is still a very fun deck.
Yeah, I'm always looking for ways to improve mine. Not that I actually play it, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's a deck. I keep it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like that Laswell, playing against it enough scared me enough to splash ice into my Mono Fire.
Yeah, which is still a weird spicy tech, and I love it. As soon as you play that Moogle, every time I'm like, oh, gotta take care of that.
Oh great, now I have to worry about Laswell and Chaos.
Mm-hmm. But
okay, so I think after that we can wrap up the Octagon Open.
Yeah, I think we're about done with that one. Moving on, we have the North American Water Cup, which, I mean, that's what cups were originally designed to drink.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of water coming from the Octagon Open, so there's plenty of it to drink.
Yeah. I'm still pretty upset that they didn't call the Fire Cup the Goblet of Fire. So that'd make a little bit more sense.
Right.
But, you can only stay salty about it for so long.
Yeah, what are you going to do? But this was, a week later? Yeah, this is a week. No, this is 5 days later. And we see here the top 16. So we get a bigger, broader, I guess, sample size.
Getting played, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a bigger pool for all this water to drink from. Not that I think you should drink from a pool, but that's besides the point. So here we see that Fire Ice actually win.
Yeah. Yes, Fire Ice 6 did well. It won. This was another tournament that really put that deck on the market. That's when everybody was kind of looking at it and saying, "Oh my God, this deck's very valuable, and we should probably use it."
Yeah. There was actually quite a lot of Final Fantasy VII stuff slapped in here too.
Yeah,
Because we see Genesis, we see Cloud, and no, that's actually about
yeah, that's
it.
about it.
No, okay.
I just realized that I accidentally put in the notes like 6 and 7 engine. No, it was just 2 7 cards.
Yeah, it's whatever though. I mean, again, the deck slaps.
Yeah,
So
slapped. And like it is, I don't want to call this like a definitive build, but this was a very good build for the deck.
yeah, at the time, this was very optimized.
Yeah, like this is what we were used to seeing. This is what people would like copy. I think the only thing I didn't see people in our playgroup copy was the one of Opus 5 Emperor.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a spicy play, but it's still a little weird. But still, there's a lot of other good tech choices at the time. Edgar Opus 8, Black Mage Opus 8 to be able to recur Belias, Glacia, and Phoenix. And other than that, yeah, it seems like a proper evolution to the last 6-centric deck that we saw.
Yeah, for sure. This is. I mean, I don't think anybody was surprised to see that this is where this deck went.
Yeah.
So, because once all the kinks were ironed out, yeah, what's going to be left but a refined machine?
Yeah.
So, and it won. So clearly, it was doing something
definitely.
right. And we also see here some wind ice, which was at the time odd combination.
Yeah, it still is. You still don't see this a lot.
Yeah.
But kind of flipping through this deck, it's I feel so bad for forgetting his name. But there was a guy who showed up to the Dice Dojo locals for a bit, and he was running like a version of this deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very spicy, just being able to flicker the Zidanes. I'm actually surprised that this deck isn't running Zidane at 3. But being able to flicker the Zidane, to be able to get the discard and targeted discard, while also just having access to the Fina for like a board wipe.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to note that this is the first major appearance, in modern times at least, of the Type 0 Golbez variant, utilizing the Opus 8 Zidane.
Wait a second.
What?
Oh wow, I did not notice this Golbez deck.
Yeah, I decided to look. I'm like, who's Daryl and why why is this mostly lightning with only a couple? I'm like,
I forgot about
that. That seems familiar for some reason. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
You know, lo and behold,
Yeah,
here we
I totally
are.
forgot about this. Yeah, because I remember this was like a huge deal because this was the set after the 2-drop Gilgamesh came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I think, the only Opus 8 card in this deck is that Zidane. Yes, it's exclusively that Zidane.
Yep.
And people were like, oh, that Zidane really pushes it over. And you were running Famfrit, A, to play the Zidane, and B, to kill off your Golbez, which was a very, very smart idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember this build because I remember I tried it out for
I was say you built this.
Yeah. I wasn't super fond of it, but it was still a very spicy deck at the time.
I mean, I had a good time playing against it at ASEN.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think it's pretty much everything, really that you got to pay attention to here. It's a lot of other repeats that we've seen before. Other than that, very unsurprising, top 16. Veritas is still going strong with 17 copies across 8 decks.
Yeah.
And what else can you say about Veritas? It's Veritas.
Yeah. Or at least it was Veritas. We'll see when we get closer to now about the representation of Veritas, but once again, at the time,
Yeah. So here we then have the Italian Wind Crystal Cup.
Yeah. Also known as... I was going to make a joke about a cup and wind, but I can't think of anything. Anyway. So going into that last tournament that we saw was very diverse, even in top 8. Incredibly diverse. We shut that down now. Because we have Weewa, Vikings, Weewa, Mono Wind, Mono Water, and then 3 almost identical Earth wind decks.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at some of these, like taking a quick peek at No Pressure, which was the Weewa deck. A lot of stuff that we're used to. This guy was even running a bit of he was running Yuri and Chalinka, along with like a slight FFCC. No, I don't want to call it an engine because he's literally just running Valeria, Yuri, and Chalinka.
It's a one-stroke motor.
Yeah.
It's a very strong one-stroke motor. Or
this
two-stroke.
is also still... Yeah, this was mostly a wind build. It's weird because this is like kind of a mono wind like splash water build. Very far apart from like what we're used to today, but at the same time it still had Pain, starter deck Pain, Opus 2 Pain, Riku and Yuna, and this was running the Mill Riku before she eventually got banned as well.
Yeah, that took a while though. But also keep in mind who built this one. Look at the name.
Yeah.
We see Joshua Freeman Birch, someone who is, I don't want to say known for innovating, but definitely pushes things forward, whether it's at a snail's pace or staying ahead of the times.
Is showing up with something that like you don't 100% expect to see.
Right.
But as soon as people start saying, "Oh, that's why he's running it," that's when more people start running it.
Exactly.
And that was that Riku. Like this Riku it's a really good card. It was so good it got banned. And the reason for that is that it was just this constant mill and being able to constantly be able to push games basically almost till time or until both players are able to mill out and then be able to just pull forward and just make them mill out.
Yeah, I remember it was pretty soon after this that card went from about 30 cents to about $7-8. And it wasn't until the card got banned that I realized I had about 7 of them sitting around. And I had 2 in foil. So I was sitting on what could have been a small little gold vein. Oops.
Yeah.
Keep track of your collections, people.
Yeah, but it's interesting because this was the deck that really put that Riku on the map. American Crystal Cup, but I'm 99% sure that was the one that really... Yeah. That was the one that really put that Riku on the map, and that's when people started looking at that Riku and saying, like, oh, this is actually a pretty good card.
Yeah, right? But yeah, so aside from that, I don't think there's much else to talk about. So I think it's safe to say that we can move on to the Canadian Toronto Ice Crystal Cup.
So my favorite deck ever wins, which is Ice Earth. Which just earlier today I was called the Ice Earth guy.
Nice.
The guy who represents Ice Earth in our little community. And this is, at the time, a standard build of it. You've got the 1 Veritas, 1 Orphan, 1 Kuja, 1 Comlanaut to search out Veritas or Galdus. I was actually running this build for a while. There were a couple things that I disagreed with it on, and I, messed around with it.
Right.
But, at the time, this was a very good Ice Earth build. We're seeing the Garland 9s, we're seeing Genesis, Renoa, Sid Austin, just staples, just constant staples across this. 3 of both flans. Backup lineup is perfect. You've got the Jesse to search out, Sephiroth. Minfilla was one that I disagreed with, and I think the other one was Argath.
Yeah, people were still running that around then. It was a card. It performed, but I'm willing to bet that card was a either an early game play or a pitch.
Yeah. Like this deck makes a lot of sense. It's Ice Earth. It's Ice Earth, basically the best you could do it at the time.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and then following right behind it, we see the normal mono water build.
Yep. And then still some Dodaluma stuff before the ban kicks in.
Yeah, we're seeing more Dodaluma. We're seeing a little bit more Weewa. I'm noticing that multiple decks are called probably Golbez.
Yeah. I'm wondering.
2 decks are called. Oh boy, I wonder if Jordan Dink and Matt Okimoto are friends.
For all we know.
But yeah, looking at this Weewa build, not too far from what we saw before. 3 Riku. That Riku went up from 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
3 Yuna. Just kind of getting the Yerp out.
Yeah.
What else?
And here we
was
actually,
around here?
interestingly, we still see Greg Cole, someone who's known for being an active community member on Facebook groups, still pushing that 14 Scions engine.
Yeah, with 13 backups.
Yeah. And
this guy is like, feed me your Veritas.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's almost impressive how stubborn some people can be to the point where it's actually beneficial for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember when I visited California and I played at the shop he plays at regularly, and met some of the people there. A lot of those people really liked Scions. A couple in particular, including Greg. That was their main deck, and they showed that deck could hold up against a lot more than people think it could.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like this, at the time, like it was funny because the last time that we really saw Scions was like Opus 5.
Yeah, 5.
And
five going into 6.
Yeah, and to see like this so Opus 5 centric deck like perform.
Yeah.
So late into Opus 7 or Opus 8, like that's really cool. I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually saw Scions come back because I still think it's a good deck.
Honestly, I think it just needs a little bit more lightning support.
Yeah, it needs a little bit more oomph.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I just noticed that one of the decks, the number 16 deck, is my wife has my Earthwind cards.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that when we were making the note sheet. That was pretty good. Veritably Vicious Veritas Vice Kings.
Yeah.
Flantasia. Like these nicknames, these deck names are all great.
Yeah, this tournament was a 10 out of 10 in deck names.
Absolutely. So, but we've gone over everything there, so I think we can move on to the Paris Grand Open.
Ooh.
And so, if the page would load. Pally.
Second. All right, here we go. So, a lot of stuff that we've seen outside of one thing. So, first place deck is Vice King. At this time, we were used to seeing Vice King. People were really experimenting with that deck. People loved playing it. And then in second, we saw Mono Wind, which was, once again, another deck that we knew was really good in that meta. Like Opus 8, we've already seen a lot of Mono Wind just going through this meta analysis. And this is just a little bit more of that. It's just kind of, what you expected to see.
Yeah, I mean, outside of, actually, we...
Fire Water.
I was going to say, let's mention Wobbling. Go check out
this deck too hard.
Yeah, go look at that one. It's
I remember this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember people were freaking out about this because this was a hard stall deck.
Yep, this deck was half summons.
Yeah, the 22 summons deck.
Yep, I remember this one. This one caught a lot of people by surprise.
Which I assume that it's the reference, but I think it's hilarious that the name is referencing Smash Brothers. Because for those who don't know, wobbling is a technique in Smash Brothers where you play as Ice Climbers and you desync the characters, or you desync like the follower character, so you could do an infinite known as wobbling. And they actually put a time limit on how long you can wobble, just so you don't wait out the entire match and just instantly win. We don't have that in Final Fantasy, so to be able to play this like complete just mess of being able to just constantly stop the opponent from playing one turn after another.
Right? Like, how often do you see a deck with only 10 forwards and 2 of them are dark?
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
This deck is whack in the best way.
Mm-hmm. So. And just every single stall card, anything to just get like the opponent off. You're also seeing Thief to help mill out the opponent. Oh wait. Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that Thief just lets you rip a character out of an opponent's hand. Oh, yeah, that's handy. but you're running like the Rikus to get the mill out. You're running Shantotto. You're running Yuna so they don't get the value. Like tons of stuff.
Right.
22 summons, man.
Whew.
I love it.
But that aside, we see a short little fire water build here, and that's probably the only other interesting deck in this event.
Yeah, especially because it was a fire water 9 deck.
Yeah, which people were, that hadn't really been seen much since the 9 starter deck.
Yeah, back in Opus 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were running Aiko as a searcher, you were running Braun, I think, to search... What's your Braun target? A Viking, of course. But you also had Freya, which was kind of an interesting choice. Like, she focuses more on Dragoons, and you're not really seeing a lot of Dragoons in these colors.
Yeah, then you got the Archangel HM.
Yeah. 3 VV, or 2 VV Opus 3, 2 VV Opus 8. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of removal in this deck as well as just normal water value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty standard here. Aside from the color combination, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, moving on from the Paris Grand Open, we have the Earth Crystal Cup in Benelux. We're probably pronouncing that wrong.
We're dumb Americans. And if you want more proof, we think it's called Benelux. I assume it's Benelux or something.
Benelux,
fancy.
Yeah. There's no accenting on it though, so it's hard to assume.
Yeah,
like it's hard to guess what it is. I'm gonna look it up actually after this.
Okay. But yeah, this is once again kind of stuff that we're used to seeing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we see a mono fire and a mono lightning, which both had their niches at the time, but checking these decks, keep in mind that we saw 2 Vice Kings in top 8. The Warrior of Light fire deck was the mono fire sitting in top 8. It's, this was one of those decks that had been around since earlier in the year, but it
never really got a proper showing.
It really never showed up much.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind this was the grand return of Veritas in top 10 cards.
Yeah, we neglected to mention in the Grand Prix or in the Grand Open Paris, Veritas didn't make the top 10 most used cards, and just one tournament away, and he's like, "I'm back."
Yep, it was replaced by Yuri in the last event, but Yuri didn't make the cut this time. So
yeah, like it's kind of funny because that's literally just like the biggest difference between a lot of mono win decks or Rewas and none.
Yeah. So, and this mono lightning deck is super like straightforward and standard. We see the Warriors of Darkness and a bunch of 3-drop, 2-drop stuff being utilized with all Sid and Yuri.
The one of Shango.
Yeah, right. This deck isn't too far from what my Mono Lightning started as, but I didn't do it on purpose, which is funny. I didn't have the FFL engine in there, so but everything else is pretty close.
Yeah. Otherwise, this is a good, just solid Mono Lightning.
Yeah.
You could tell that this person literally just saw, like, oh, that came out in Opus 8. Okay, I think I'll throw that in here.
Yeah, basically. And it worked. Right? They got top 4.
Yeah.
You know all about that, don't you?
Yep. Yeah. We'll get to that. But yeah, otherwise, we see a more Earth build of Earth Ice. Oh god, this is a very interesting build. This is the first time I've really looked at it.
Which one again?
Masked Woman. The Earth Ice that's mostly ice, or mostly Earth. Once Upon a Midnight Dreary.
Yeah.
Princess, Masked Woman, Epitaph. What are some other cards that we don't usually see? Gumba at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And also just kind of a weird
TT.
Which I think is a very weird choice, but sure.
It's a 2-drop.
Carbuncle?
No, that Carbuncle was making... Oh, that Carbuncle.
Carbuncle.
Huh.
Opus 2 Carbuncle.
Yeah, that caught me off guard. I mean, this
That's a
deck,
lot of this deck is just kind of catching you off guard.
well, I mean, here's the thing though. There's no Edward for summon cancels.
Yeah.
So you need something.
Yeah, I suppose.
So
What was it? I just realized Epitaph just for Undead Princess.
is that
Interesting.
so? You're right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting deck.
Oh no, it's Scale Toad. Oh no, it's forward.
Forward.
You're right. Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
And first is
shit.
much closer to what we knew Earth Ice was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Flicker centric. This person was running Palom as a one of, which is a solid choice.
Yeah. That's some very
but
high
otherwise-
cost. Some very. The curve was
Yeah.
pretty steep. You know, the Shantotto, Aparuru,
Yeah.
Minfilia, and Nidhogg, Sephiroth, Veritas. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, this was just a little bit more calm. We're seeing Nidhogg instead of Veritas, which is an interesting choice, but not an unwelcome one.
I mean, Veritas was in there too.
I'm talking about the other Earth Ice.
Oh, the other.
that
Oh,
came
the
in
other one.
first.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, outside of that, we're seeing Vice Kings again, Vice Kings, Mono Fire, which I think is the Warrior of Light build.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Kind of something is Earth, Wind, and then another Earth Ice. So Earth Ice was like kind of on the rise this tournament.
Yeah, it was definitely becoming one of the more dominant deck types. For sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, moving on from that, though, we have the
Cool.
Spanish Nationals.
Oh, waiting for that to load up.
All right, so here we see a flat 100 participants, and an almost, well, actually, it's a very clear, very one-trick pony meta.
This is so funny to just look at. So, we've got Weewa, Mono Lightning, Weewa, Dodaluma Control. This was like right after the card got banned, or right after the card got announced to be banned.
Yeah.
Because the first Earth Wind deck is Dodaluma is banned. It's running 3 Dodaluma.
Yeah, right. And two of these, both
I
the
wonder if-
Dodaluma decks are lamenting that the Dodaluma's ban is coming. So, but we're
Notice
still-
the second one isn't actually running Dodaluma.
is that so?
We're seeing Vanilla and Wool in the 4-drop slots.
So we are.
As well as a Calbrino, which is a spicy choice.
See, I've always liked that card, but I never thought the application was terribly necessary. I tried
Yeah.
to force it for a while. It just didn't work out for me.
Yeah, it's just understated is the issue.
I suppose.
Because paying 4 for a 7K that costs 2 to animate, even if it's Undying, like, that's still kind of a feel bad.
I mean, yeah. So, but that aside, this one, lot of standard stuff. This event doesn't really have any shakeups. Weewa, Mono Lightning, and Dodaluma decks. That's a continuation of the standard. Veritas still going strong with 18 copies across 7 decks, meaning that there's at least two ofs. There's at least 2 ofs in 7 of those decks.
Yeah.
So
There's it's always fun when there's more Veritas than players in top 8.
right? Oh man, that must have been a stressful tournament.
Yeah. But let's move on to the Wind Crystal Cup from there. Once again, that's just a lot of stuff that we're used to. That's stuff that we know.
Right.
Around this time was when, or just earlier that month is when Dodaluma was announced to get banned.
Yeah, but the ban wasn't in effect
Yeah.
yet. Keep that in mind.
It was going to come
people.
with Opus 9. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a little bit of time left. But
Yeah.
in that time, the Wind Crystal Cup in Lenexa had 128 participants. So topping, we see Earth Wind splashing other colors. No surprise.
Yep. The standard Dottaluma build, which
Right.
you get used to very fast.
And once again, we see a lot of typical American contenders here. A lot of familiar names, including a local, Brian Garrity.
Hi, Brian.
So shout outs to the NV team. They're all pretty cool guys.
Yeah, and then just other names we're used to: Chris Lopez, Okimoto.
Yeah, Brian
Sam
Berkeley.
Toole,
Yeah.
Sergio.
Yeah, Sam Toole. Everybody here is a familiar name to the American,
Scene.
the American scene. And so are these decks, because we're seeing, again, we see the Donnaluma style deck. We see Mono Wind. We see Weewa. We see Earth Fire, which I believe was the Final Fantasy VII build. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Let me check it.
Yep, that is 7 tribal.
Yep. The
7,
second I saw Cloud and Cloud.
Yeah, 7 tribal. There's a teeny little bit of ice in this event. Some ice, water, and some mono ice. Nothing unusual. The meta is pretty standard here. Just a continuation of what we already know.
Yep. Yeah, this mono ice deck was very solid at the time. I have to comment on every ice deck.
Yeah.
It was nice. But kind of what you expected out of a mono ice deck. Most ice decks had already started moving towards Earth. But it was nice to see Chris Lopez make a good showing with just raw ice.
Yeah, for sure. Which is funny because later on he goes raw fire in later events.
An iconic all fire.
Right. Also, let's note again, no Veritas in this event, at least in the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So top 8 was missing Veritas, which is funny because it almost seems like America was pushing less Veritas while the rest of the world was pushing more Veritas, or at least Europe.
Well, the Mono Water was running Veritas still.
I mean, yeah, that's one deck though.
Yeah. Oh, and first and second place decks were running, or second and third. Wait, one sec. Am I looking at the right one? No, one sec. Nationals, right? Oops. Anyway.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Wind Crystal Cup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it was all the American players here. So, yeah, no, there were.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So.
And there were 6 copies of them across 4 decks.
Yeah, if
so
you
everybody was running 1 or 2.
If you expand the top cards to 25, you can sit here and see Veritas at number 11 with 6 copies in top 8.
Just short, yeah.
Yeah, so he's there, just not where he could be.
Yeah.
So.
But okay, you ready to move on to the Lightning Crystal Cup?
Let's do it. Forget about catching lightning in a bottle. We got it in a cup.
Now here we see the return of Mono Ice getting top place with Lopez is nice, which is a clear throwback to Lopez playing Mono Ice in the previously mentioned tournament. Water, which we're used to seeing. Dottaluma's banning won't be in vain. So that guy won the name contest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another mono water build, a completely ice build that ran Shadow Lord as like kind of a little spicy, tech.
Yeah, because at that time, Shadow Lord really wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah. You didn't have that many targets for it, really.
It's funny, right as he got the reprint, he was just not that necessary anymore.
Good counter to Knights and Mono Water.
Yeah. I mean, but Golbez decks weren't popular, so it wasn't that big a deal. So, Yeah.
We even saw a Mono Water Fusoya deck make a showing here, which is interesting because Fusoya had mostly faded out of the water meta.
Yeah.
By this point.
Yeah, in favor of Veritas, which scraped his way back into the top 10 used cards.
Just barely. Just sitting at number 9.
Yep. So, Veritas clinging to his fame, waiting to pull off some sort of weird publicity stunt. You know, hopefully he doesn't
Of
go.
course.
Yeah, hopefully before the next tournament we look at, he doesn't go streaking across Hollywood Boulevard or something. But
We can only pray.
yeah, right. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, the event wasn't that surprising.
Hmm.
Nothing really to say here except for the names were good.
Yeah, the names were good, and it was just nice seeing Mono Ice
Yeah, another
just
113.
perform.
Yeah, another over 100.
Literally. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say more than 100 participants in this one as well. So
Yeah.
these decks scraped through the masses.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to knock a lot down
Mm-hmm.
just to get here. And, people just really seeing just how good Sephiroth is, really.
Can't argue that.
Yeah, 13 copies across 5 decks.
Yeah. So moving on, we have a big, actually twofold event happening. Opus 9 drops, and Dottaluma is officially banned at this point.
Begone.
Begone, thought.
Begone, thought. So, yeah, so this was kind of a big thing. Like, the Dottaluma ban was controversial. Like, it was something that people, didn't really know what to think of. Some people were against it, some people were for it. We had an episode where we speculated, we were told beforehand that there was a card that was going to be banned going into Opus 9. And we didn't know what it was. And then we made an episode. I still love this bit about our show. We literally made an episode about what cards we think should be banned.
Or what could be banned.
And what could be banned. And we consider Dottaluma a non-threat. Because we're like, he's a good card. He's not performing how he used to be. And they're slowly getting counters to it.
Best part, though.
And
The announcement happened that he was being banned while we were recording.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall, but we mentioned that in our
remember.
follow-up video.
Yeah.
So
Immediate follow-up video to that video, just saying, hey, by the way, Dottaluma got banned. Dottaluma was the card. We're going to talk about it for a second.
yeah, I think we popped that video out like 2 days later.
Yeah. I know we met up the next day to record the episode.
Yeah, we were. That was. Yeah, that was a fun time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nuts. But so anyway, so the big meta shift here was that Dottaluma has been banned. Big sad moment, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens.
But following that release and ban, we have the UK Nationals. And so the UK Nationals had a strong showing of Ice in first, and then another one in top 4 as well. We have what's left of a Dottaluma deck in top 4, and then another one in top 8. Another one down in the 5, 6, 7, 8 slots.
Yeah.
And then mono water, mono wind, and hey, look at that, some fire ice.
Yeah.
But with 0 backups.
Yeah. It wasn't like an insane thing, but people were like, excuse me? Like, just this hard aggro deck.
Yup.
It was such a high slot in this tournament.
Some funky stuff, but most of these cards were even cost. Almost everything was evenly cost. So
never had to overpay for something.
Yeah, unless you were playing the Archangel, you didn't overpay for anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see how this deck would be a threat. And I mean, it made top 8 out of 137 players.
Yeah. So I can only imagine what it was like facing down this deck.
I can imagine lots of confusion. That whole deck is just a mind game.
Just waiting for the opponent to play back up.
Yeah, basically. Just
maximize their nail value.
Yeah. So
yeah, this was a nutso deck. But so we still see a return of Mono Wind. If I'm correct, Mono Wind hasn't really been incorporating a lot of Opus 9. We see the premiere of the Magus Sisters, which has since become a staple.
Yeah, Magus Sisters and Yzmat.
Yeah, Yzmat. Blah. Like, those are the two big premieres. And then we're also seeing still 3 Riku in a Mono Wind deck. We're seeing the FFCC engine with Yuri Chlinka and Ohanalim.
I'll
Whenever
huddle 'em.
whenever we're like talking and playing the game, I get them right every single time.
Yeah, but you're on the spot
But
here.
now that we're recording is now when I'm consistently messing it up.
Hey, you're on the spot. The nerves are going. You know, we've been doing this for an hour
Yeah.
now.
My God, sorry for such a long episode, everybody.
I mean, there's a
Ready
lot to
strap
talk
in.
about.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. But yeah, it's funny. A small interlude, really quick, is when we did the first episode, we only had so many tournaments to talk about. We'd go through 5 tournaments, and then we'd get a new opus.
Right. Well, yeah, because the tournament scene
And this
hadn't
one's
really
like-
developed. Square Enix really
Yeah.
started supporting the game more. You know, the game itself blew up.
Hmm.
You know, in the time of, you know, around Opus 5 is when the Chicago scene really started to blow up. So we had more to do with, you know, with our local players. And
Yeah,
I can
we had
imagine
larger
that
events too.
yeah, and a lot of other larger cities got similar situations going. So yeah, there was more going on, and globally too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just more to talk about here.
Yeah.
And so after the UK Nationals, we have the Spain Fire Crystal Cup. And that event was also not that surprising, not that big a deal, except there was a whack ton of wind, like a lot of wind.
Yeah, I remember this is when we were in the group, at least we were kind of talking like, is wind too good? And I think at the time we had 2 or 3 players playing mono wind.
We had we had maybe 5.
Yeah, because the number 1 player that I remember playing wind, we had Dave and Jeff.
I was just about to say Dave and Jeff.
I tried it out for a little bit, and I wasn't too fond of it.
I think Tim and Mariano.
Yeah, Mariano was trying out Activation Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Shouts out to Mariano and Tim. And I think Avery had a build of mono wind too. I don't remember playing against it though.
I actually really didn't get over to some of the other shops a lot during this period, so I wouldn't know off the top of my head for much. But 80 players.
Yeah, and I think it's very funny that despite all this wind representation,
and ice
the
deck
number
wins.
1 deck is mono ice. Yeah.
I mean, it's Jamie Faulkner though.
And this is it's Jamie Faulkner. Everybody knows Jamie Faulkner's an insanely good player. And he's running once again just the normal mono ice build. I remember Bill and I talked about Scholar, Opus 8 Scholar, quite a bit around this time. And then obviously just kind of showing off how strong Azure Dragon Lassie Soryu was at the time.
Yeah. But I mean, regardless of the first place winner of the tournament, we can all say that Joshua Freeman Birch wins the deck naming contest, unsurprisingly, with Mono Wind Gamer Bathwater for sale.
I forgot about that name. Oh, God. Yeah. Flipping through some of the mono wins right now, once again, kind of standard stuff. The only thing we saw people bringing in from Opus 9 is... he was running an Edge, which is interesting. Once again, Maga Sisters. This deck wasn't running Easymat, but some people... This was kind of a short-lived fad. I don't know if people still play it. Well, I haven't seen a lot of mono win. Is people are still playing the Opus 9 Fran. Which is just the gets value if you have Balthier, and then being able to ping something for 3k, hit something for 6k.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
And short-lived. Like, it was around for literally like the beginning of this. I don't think we see it that much past these first handful of tournaments.
Yeah, it was kind of an edge case.
Over to Mono Dave, which was the 4th place deck. We're not seeing that. We're seeing, more of the FFCC engine, Norstallin, Watchrill, Ilaria.
Yeah, I think that was peak FFCC with like reactivation, Opus 9 Aerith.
Yeah, or that's Opus 8 Aerith. We were seeing Opus 9 Maga Sisters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
Maga Sisters was like the only big change to that deck.
That's right.
This Weewa, this is a very spicy Weewa. Number 1, it's running Shara. I think they were running Shara as both a Veritas counter and Illawa counter. And drop ping something.
Yeah, I mean, how much Illawa was in? Well, we're talking about.
It was more
top
so for
decks.
Veritas, where you bring
Yeah.
him that close to dying, and then you Shara to ping him, and then you just
True.
kill your own Shara.
Yeah, but also, I mean, also people keep in mind that a lot of these decks, you're in trading card game events, you're not seeded,
Yeah.
like in other, tournaments of certain kinds. So like, you have to work your way up through pools, in the Swiss. Well, it's not pools per se, but it is Swiss rounds. So you're going to be facing a lot of stuff you don't expect from not lower level players, but people with stuff outside the raw meta.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, things that you're not used to seeing.
Yeah, so you have to be ready for basically anything. So those unexpected plays, the cards you don't think you'd see, weird combos that you didn't remember existed, that kind of stuff. But I think we can jump up to the Crystal Cup water in Thailand.
In my land. Sorry, that was a really bad joke.
You're free to leave. But here we had 86 participants.
Hey, I'm back.
Ah, jeez.
Sorry, sorry, I had to throw my bad jokes. But yeah, so 86%. You talk.
86 participants. We see toward the end of August here, going into September. We see a lot of wind, a little bit of ice in the bottom bracket of top 8.
To 8th. Yeah.
And oh hey, what is this? A mono Earth deck, episode Arden?
Yeah, buddy.
Huh.
See, this
weird.
card, this was very good because a big thing about mono Earth at the time. Oh my god, 15 summons. A big thing about mono Earth at the time is that it was a hard counter to mono wind.
Yep.
Because you had Arden, which basically couldn't be answered by mono wind. Mono wind had to just surplus so much that they could just pitch things to his effect. But you'll also see Asmodai, which could just outright kill stuff. Cecil, which could outright kill stuff. The hard removal that this deck had was able to just keep the forwards down, while the Arden was able to just stop them in their tracks.
And then also let's keep in mind, there's Mist Dragon, there's Titan, there's the 10-drop Arc.
Yeah.
We also see the Undead Princess for some recursion. We see Galdes for oppression, and we see Vanille for stickiness. She just doesn't leave the field because you can pitch those Hekkas.
I want to talk about Spice. If you want to talk about just like getting in the opponent's way, this guy was running a Hilgigas.
Yep. I remember people. This was the deck that had people like, "Wait, what? That card is good?"
Yeah, we saw it in one of the previous tournaments. It was being played in the mostly Earth Ice, I think.
Yeah.
But that was like it. Like Hilgigas is, I still think, a very strong card, and I do think we will occasionally see it.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that won't go away, but it's not. Yeah. It's not an absolutely necessary staple because there are other options.
It's a very meta-dependent card.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but that aside,
meta for it, really.
Yeah. So, but that aside, we see nothing outside the usual here. Just the scales are tipping heavily in Wind's favor. So, but moving on, we get to see the Fire Crystal Cup in Australia. Is the specific locale of Australia listed here? Australia, New Zealand.
Doesn't say the specific place.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in Good Games, Melbourne.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, so shout-outs to Good Games.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting that they're primarily an Australian company.
Yep. So... but in first place, we see Vice Kings.
Yeah. What was it? We see a lot of what we saw in the Opus 8 meta. We're seeing Vice Kings. We're still seeing Mono Wind. There's literally 3 Mono Winds in a row. And then Weewa as well.
Yep. So, and then, a little bit of ice. It's 3 elements. We're seeing 3 elements represented here, with the other 3 just dropped off entirely.
Yeah.
So, this is just to go, it's funny. The only comment on the whole event's report here is Fire Cup, but where's the fire? The fire
Oh
was
my
the
God.
spice of the decks.
Yeah.
No, but for real, it was a very, very standard looking tournament here.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I'm flipping through the mono win decks. It's nothing that we haven't seen in the Opus 8. Like, it really feels like everybody was just throwing in Edge,
mhm.
Izamat, or Maga Sisters, and that was
Or
kind of
all
the end of
three.
it.
Yeah, like
Or all three. Yeah.
the wind decks have gone through iterations of reactivation,
Mhm.
FFCC removal. Now we just see
Yeah.
everything in one deck, but in
Yeah.
multiple decks. The
Yeah. There's
real
also that Fran that I mentioned earlier has come back
yeah,
once again.
but the real spice here is in the names as usual. And that's about it. So
Sorry, that just feels like such a backhanded compliment.
I mean,
Of, oh yeah, it's just all the spice. It's a lot of what we were used to.
it
It's
is.
nothing that we haven't seen before. Once again, just flipping through this ice deck, the spice of it was Opus One Terra,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. But outside of that, not too much. Two Citarains, one Last Well,
Yeah,
the
like
Bard.
keep in mind these decks. I'm not insulting their construction because
Yeah.
you know
They were
even
playing what was best, and they optimized it for themselves.
yeah, these decks were about as peak as they could get. So when when the meta and when the best decks in the game are so linear, um, I mean your options are just as narrow.
Yeah.
So here we just see people picking what they wanted to pick from the narrow options.
Yeah.
So moving on, we have
Yeah.
the Wind Crystal Cup in Singapore, and wait, let me guess, not a whole lot of wind. Oh, look at that! Only mono wind deck here is the winner.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting to see. So first place is Mono Wind.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at this build, once again, everything that we're used to seeing. Balthier for the Fron. The Fron's back again. We're seeing the FFCC engine with Valera. This deck was running one Maria, one Arya Type 0, which is a little spicy. It's something that we're not super used to. This person was running Pinello to use not the new van. I thought interesting. But was using Pinello to be able to search out Balthier to search out the Fran for the discount,
Yeah.
which is a nice, cute little engine. But everything else we've seen, Vada, Bartz, Fina, Izamat, Maga Sisters, Yuri, Chalinka, Aerith, Alexander, Diabolos, just kind of what you expect to see.
Yeah, not a lot of
But
surprises here. Fire Ice made its
yeah,
its reprisal here.
Hmm.
So that's showing up again. Mono
yeah.
Lightning, which is kind of cool, from Eugene Ing.
Uh-huh.
Then eighth place, or in bottom of top eight rather, is a 3 Tifa 3 Lease deck, which is a mostly Earth version of the 37 or 7 tribal mass EX deck.
Running 20 EX burst, which is
Yeah.
still a lot.
Yeah, it's still a whack
That's
ton.
still 2/5 of the deck.
Yeah, and this deck that was,
But
hard. Wasn't hard meta, but it was strong meta.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months prior. It's still kicking. It's still around. It's showing that
Yeah.
it still has the gumption to stick around, hang out with the big guys.
Yeah. We even see Opus 9 Gabranth, which has since become like a huge staple
Oh,
in this
absolutely.
deck.
Yeah, the full arts for that one are absurd.
Yeah.
So, but again,
Which I'm gonna brag really quick. I pulled
Oh,
two
yeah.
of them and I'm using them, and that's it. Sorry, I had to bring that up. I have to bring it up every time.
you good, my man? You good?
I gotta.
So here now after this event comes the Riku Opus 1 ban, which we were told would go into effect right before Worlds, I believe.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, they let it go through a little bit of Opus 10. And so, post that announcement but not effect, we see the Italy Nationals. And so, surprising no one, we see Mono Wind and Vice Kings taking the most of the top 8.
Oh, this was after Riku was banned.
Oh, the ban was in effect?
Yes. Because I'm looking through them right now. I'm gonna double check and make sure that there were no Rikus in this deck. Yep. This is when everybody had properly moved over.
That's
I'm
fair.
seeing the Opus 2 Riku in YR Porum Fisoya.
Hmm. Yeah, forgive me for not remembering correctly. I didn't run that deck, and frankly, I
Yeah.
didn't really care all that much. I was just lamenting my loss of potential profits. Sitting on seven.
But
Anyway.
which is funny because I was on the opposite end of that, where I think I paid or I traded like $15 worth of cards for 2 of them,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing.
Yeah.
And then it immediately got banned, and I was like,
I
"Come
felt
on!"
so bad, especially after I found mine. I was just like, "Ugh, I could have given you some.
Yeah,
Oh well."
yeah.
So we all make mistakes. I mean, I was born, so.
Yikes. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Let's be a little bit happier. So I'm flipping through these decks, and we're seeing just like kind of adjacent to meta. Like we're seeing some actual spice in some of these. And the big one that caught me is in Mad as King, Vice Kings. He was running 1 3-drop Chocobo.
Yep, and the chaos to
one.
drop it.
And the Chaos to drop it. Which is an interesting choice. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I didn't notice this the first time this tournament came around.
I mean, giving one other thing haste, it's probably a game clincher, or an early game aggro. Kind of put yourself a little bit in the lead.
Yeah, or even just giving haste to Lock, knock a card out of their hand. Giving haste to Genesis, knock a card out of their hand.
Basically, yeah.
Give haste to Cloud of Darkness, be able to knock something down even more. Like there's a lot of targets for it, and I think that is some legit spice.
No, for sure. That was a ridiculously unexpected card, and clearly it performed. What was it, second place, this deck?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it it showed that whether it was by raw surprise factor or whether it was by true performance, that one earned a win. Close enough.
Yeah, and this tournament also still showed that Wind is still very strong without Riku. Riku was a good card, don't get me wrong, and I think we briefly talked about it in one video. It didn't guarantee its own video.
Yeah.
But it was a good card, but it didn't have the impact that Dodaluma had. It wasn't a card that you saw in every single deck. It was a card that you saw a lot, but it wasn't an integral part of that deck.
True. At least from our perspective.
That in this tournament, because like Mono Wind and Weewa still doing well despite losing it.
Right. So, but moving on, from the Italian nationals, we're going on to the France nationals. Vive la France.
Vive la France. I'm really in the mood for French food.
Dude, I could go for we gotta find a French bistro that's still open.
Oh, a French bistro. Oh my god.
There used to
anyway, sorry.
I'm gonna take this tangent. There used to be one in Woodfield Mall, and my mom and I would go there all the time, and it was very rarely that I actually would eat like the true French food they offered there, but when I did, oh man,
so good.
It was so good. They did close, which sucked. We were super sad because we didn't even get told it was going to happen. We just walk in one day and they're closed up, but oh well.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been a while since I had French food. So, quick question. What you usually had, was it spicy?
No, but this tournament kind of was.
That's what I was getting at, because like we're going to turn up the spice. This Earth Wind deck that topped is literally a Dodaluma deck, like an updated Dodaluma deck without Dodaluma.
Yeah.
1 Cactar, 3 Koboldroid Yin, which was spice, hard spice.
Prior to this card was considered trash.
It's still considered trash, but at the same time, we were slowly leaning towards a meta where you had a lot of big boys. People weren't running as many 2-drops. Only color that was actually still running 2-drops was Ice, and Ice was running Sid Reigns and Lastwell, and that was about it. If you saw Fire Ice, you'd see a couple 2-drops, nothing crazy. And the fact that Koboldroid could just swing in under everything was insane.
It was a free damage point every single turn.
Yeah, and on top of that, just to flex, in case you like animate it and they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna deal 5k to it," you had Carbuncle there too, so
Yep.
you could just constantly cast Carbuncle on it, make sure it's big. If anything blocks Kobold Droid, it's gonna win because you've got that Carbuncle. It's also running Diabolos, Phoenix, like it.
Keep in mind that Carbuncle can be continually reused because it bounces
Yeah,
after every turn. So like
yeah,
it's man, this deck was funky.
it bounces every time you play it. Is
Yeah.
the ridiculous part. Being able to just like look at your Kobold Droid and just say, "Okay, this is a 9k. I'm gonna pay 6. This is a 9k now."
Well, no, it bounces at the end of the turn.
No, it doesn't.
It oh no, so you're right.
If,
Oh,
if
you're
it's
right.
yeah, if
Sorry,
its power
sorry.
has become 9,000 or less,
Yep.
return
Nope.
Carbuncle
Sorry,
to
I
your hand.
misread. Yep. Nope. Yep. So
So you could
just,
bump it up to an 11k actually.
yeah, but then you actually lose it.
Yeah.
So unless you're trying to get over something real huge,
Yeah.
but like, whatever, man. Free damage.
Yeah. The thing is, it's always gonna win against a 2-drop, and it's always gonna swing under. Like that is some hard spice. And on top of that, the deck was still running Earth Wind staples, Cecil, Aerith, Noctis, Y'shtola, Zidane, Samilafina, Shantotto, Star Sybil, etc., etc.
Yeah. So, man, Kobold Droid power indeed.
Yeah, that is a spicy deck. And then this was just a spicy tournament because we got that. We got Mono Wind. Okay, we've seen Mono Wind. Water Lightning.
Yeah. Water Lightning here.
And one of the notes of this episode, and we like stopped on this deck. And I feel like, I think, did we write this in the notes? This was, I think, one of the first times that we see Agrius making a showing.
Yeah, this is the first major Agrius showing,
And
you're right.
he could have been showing in Opus 7. I'm not entirely sure about this, don't quote me.
It was very rare, but it was there.
Yeah. But we see Agrius plays. We see Agrius being able to search Lulu, Duke Ultana, King of Burmecia, Braum, Ovilia, Viking, Iloa, Mia. Like, he has tons of good targets, and just seeing a Water Lightning deck just almost out of the blue is insane.
Oh no, it's not out of the blue, Ty. It's in blue, but also with some purple.
Ah ha ha. Ah ha ha ha.
Hey Ty, we've been going for an hour and a half. We got to keep these people engaged.
I know. Okay, I'm opening up our old notes to see if we could to see if anything else was running Agrius. But
Gotcha.
in the meantime,
Opus 10.
Opus 10.
Yeah.
Opus really running Agrius that much? No, interesting. Okay, so yeah, that was the first time that we really saw Agrius, I guess. Interesting.
So at this point,
let's jump over to Opus 10.
Yeah, Opus 10. So at this point, Veritas has basically fallen out of mass popularity. It's still a big card, it's still a threat, and it's still pricey.
Still pricey.
For the context of this game, right? With the most expensive cards in the game being like 30, 40 bucks. That's not that bad, relatively speaking, right? And it's still a very good card. But it's not as terrifying anymore, and it's not as common in competitive play because the answers have been found.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody found...
People are used to him at this point.
Exactly. He's not scary. Yeah. He's not the big bad. Even new players were just like, oh, I can play Fenrir, and Fenrir will kill it. Or
I can play 5-drop Yuna and just avoid it. I can, like, people were finding ways around it. Oh, I could just play this card I can play backup that gives me value if it dies. Like, there were a lot of ways to play around it.
Yep. So, and we actually had that card on the list for potential bans.
It was like number 1 on my list for me.
I know, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, and once again, this is me being wrong about card games. Like, there's times where I'm wrong, and there's times where I'm very right, and this was not one of those times. But I was very right about Veritas being good.
Oh no, I
was
absolutely
very wrong about it being good enough to be banned.
Yep. But in this next tournament, we have the North American Dark Crystal Cup, and man, this one is all over the place. But you know what we don't see? We don't see any Earth at all. We see very little wind.
Earth.
We see the winning deck being a Weewa.
Yeah.
And then we see Mono Lightning.
Yeah. So, once again, this is right after Opus 10 dropped, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, going over to this Weewa deck, we're seeing a lot of stuff that we're used to now. Like, mind you, we just got out of the Opus 10 meta, but this was the first time that we saw something very close to a Opus 10 Weewa deck.
Yep.
Because we're seeing 3 Porum, 3 Pain, 1 Searcher Pain. This person was still running Balthier and Fran, which is an interesting choice. Zidane, we basically got rid of Viking Layla. Some builds are starting to run Lena. Lena fighted out and kind of came back in. Fina, Veritas. This is a deck that I ran something very close to this for a long while.
You did.
This is just, once again, the beginnings, the genesis of like what we now know as Weewa.
True.
It's moving away from FFCC.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, at this point, this is where the optimization was really shining. This is where people were starting to realize, okay, let's focus on these factors of the deck, whereas the raw damage output can be isolated to Fina and Valifor. Not much else to worry about when you have all these other tools in the toolbox at your disposal. So, but with that out of the way, we have the Lightning deck that came in second, and that is a resurgence of basically the same stuff we saw from before, but utilizing the 8-drop Kane, some Veritas, and odd Hildebrand came back.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. We haven't really seen Hildebrand since like Opus 5, Opus 6. Well, Hildebrand was a Opus 4 card, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that since Opus 5, where he was kind of a staple in Mono Lightning. But now, not so much.
Yeah, true. But I'm glad to see Bahamut Zero getting some love. I really like that card. But everything else is about what you expect to see.
Zero is still a very strong card, and being able to just kind of play this aggro game. We see the backup Turbo with Sid Previa, Louisoix, and then Alphanon, the new LSA, or Opus 8 LSA at the time. Like, we're just seeing a lot that we're used to.
Right.
That we're used to now.
Yeah, we're used to it now. There's still
this
some
one
things...
isn't running Felthanos.
Correct, because it wasn't out yet. Well, it was out. It was out. Yeah, it's Opus 10. Yeah.
This is before people took it very seriously. People were like, "Yeah, this is a good card, but how much can it do?"
Yeah.
This also might have been. Is there no Opus 10 in here? One second.
I think it was like one card, maybe. I didn't look.
We'll check. Let me check the other one as well.
There is no Opus 10 card. Not one Opus 10 card in the Wish This Was Mono Mickey.
There's not one in RFGO. It looks like. This might have been... Oh, no. Okay. Never mind. So in the Icefire, we have Opus 10 Terra, the starter deck.
Yeah.
Okay, so people were starting to run Opus 10. Though this might have been right after the starter deck, but before the official release?
I think that's what it was.
Thinking on it?
Because there's no reason that Lightning deck wouldn't be running Felthanos.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, so, our mistake. So this was when we basically got Opus 10, but this was right before...
Actually, this might have been the weekend that it dropped.
Yeah.
Like, I think
so this was before people had the cards. This is before people could get their hands on everything that they needed. Then, once, for official events, even if the pre-release is out, like, I think there's still a... if I'm correct, you probably know this better than I do. There's like a grace period where you can't use the cards.
Yes, correct. There is a 2-week period typically where, in larger scale events, any new set is temp banned in favor of, balance and experimentation and letting people adjust and acclimate to the new environment of the cards. Most shops will allow cards the second they're out. Basically, all the Chicago shops do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I remember them making announcements that yes, the starter deck stuff is legal as soon as it's out, though.
Okay.
So because people were excited to be using this Terra and the new Vaughn, and other stuff similar.
Yes.
So But that being said,
But anyway, shifting back to the tournament.
Correct.
So we see fire ice, which is very spicy.
we see.
We're seeing
I like this mono fire for soya.
Where you have a mono ice that runs no 2 or 3 drops, just 4 drops and aboves, with 17 backups. Let's see what else we have here.
We have the Stone Cold Steiner with a fire water.
Fire water 9? That's what it seems like. Yeah, it's running VVs. Yeah. There's the Artemisian, Black Waltz, Ico, Braun. Yeah. So a nice.
This deck truly showing that nothing is really out of date. You can still.
I do love that this deck just like rears its head every here and there. Just every while, it's just like, hey, by the way, I still exist.
You saw that obstinate MFer who's just like, you know what? I like 9 this much. I really, really like Steiner, and I'm putting him in this dang deck, and I'm gonna do well. And they got 8th place out of 69 people, so nice.
Yeah, that's solid. Quick shout-outs to, where's your name?
Andrew Watkins. Very nice.
There you go, Andrew. I've seen him on the pages every here and there, I think.
Yeah, he chimes in rarely, but there, it's there.
Yeah. We see another return to Agrius. We see another Agrius showing. But otherwise, just kind of a very diverse tournament. It's nice to have all these tournaments of like Weewa, Mono Wind, to come out of the Opus 9 shell of just constantly seeing the same handful of things.
Right.
Into now seeing, stuff like this. We're seeing fire, we're seeing ice, we're seeing water. Seeing a little bit of everything, except Earth. Earth can go play outside.
Yeah. Sorry, Earth players.
America Crystal Cup.
Yeah, their cards are just too big to fit through the door,
Yeah.
But it's nice that the players are allowing variation. Because Weewa and Ice were getting a little stale.
Yeah.
So,
and then getting into the next tournament, Weewa and Ice were getting stale. Weewa not making much of a showing, but Ice taking over this tournament.
Yeah, definitely.
With the
5
Australia Nationals.
Yes, 5 out of 8 top 10 or top 8. No, hold on. Yeah, this is
4.
Oh, it's top 4, right? Because this is when.
Yeah, because this is two
deck format. Yeah, 2-deck format had gotten popular. Oh yeah, because we were making the notes. I was like, oh crap, I gotta go back and see which ones are 2-deck format. And I scrolled through everything, and I'm like, this was the first one, the first major one that was 2-deck format outside of like Worlds and stuff like that from way back.
Yeah, this is when they were getting more used to and more ready for Worlds.
Correct.
So we started seeing a lot more 2-deck format.
Right.
But so let's just jump into it. So for first place, we're seeing a Fire Ice that's not. Oh, is this a 6-centric one? It's looking like it. Loch Celeste. Yep.
6.
So we're seeing a Fire Ice 6-deck, which to see it in Opus 10 or the beginnings of Opus 10 is interesting, but I feel like that Terra is just able to do that much work for this deck.
True. Yeah, that Terra is terrifying.
I
actually didn't mean to do that, and I was halfway through saying the word, and I'm like, screw it, I already started. I can't stop now.
It's just weird because Terra really only has 2 targets, Belias and Glacia.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like it's working with a lot. Like the Glacia is a very good target for it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, but don't forget it's 6 summons total, so you have the opportunity to bounce those multiple times. Up to 3 times, where you can. So you essentially have 9 summons.
Yeah, and Glacia is a really disgusting card.
Oh, I mean, it's modular and it's 2 effects instead of just 1.
Yeah. Just being able to make the opponent, just being able to dull something, draw a card, deal 7k to dull, draw a card, or make the opponent discard.
Yeah.
Freeze something, make the opponent discard, dull, freeze something. Like it's a very versatile card.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But outside of the Fire Ice in first, we're seeing another Agrius deck. Using Sephiroth, Fasoya, Kane, a lot of very strong ETBs. And even using Hurdy from Opus 9, which is interesting.
No summons, but we do have Scale Toad.
Yep, yep. Though, if I remember correctly, this deck generally avoids summons. But
True.
being able to hit Agrius, is it until character? Yeah, being able to Agrius and hit a Scale Toad is probably a huge feel good.
Oh, that would be so nice.
Yeah, yeah. This guy is completely forgoing any 2-drops. This guy's like, I want maximum value.
Yep.
We're hitting 3-drops off of Agrius.
Which is funny because there's so few. Overall, there's few 3-drops. There's actually more 4 and. Yeah, there's way more 4-drops.
Yeah,
And
it's because he's just aiming to hit just the exact 3-drops he wants. King of
Yep.
Burmecia to search Astinian or Kane. You've got the Duke Altana to search another Agrius, so you could just kind of suicide him. The Braun to search the Viking. You hit a Viking, you draw a card. You hit the Illua, you get a free point of damage. Like, there's a lot of that in this deck.
yeah, no, there's not much to complain about, and it clearly functioned. It won.
Yeah.
So not much I can add to that. You kind of hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna touch down on this Weewa deck really quick, because we've been talking about Weewa a lot this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a very non-standard build. It's running 10 summons. It's not running a conventional backup lineup. It's more standard unit based. It's running one of the 4-drop Chocobo, 3 Rangers. We're seeing the Lena to fetch a Knight Garnet Opus 8, which is an interesting choice, and the ever so beloved Porum.
Yeah.
But running Tomberries, like, this is just a very interesting build. It's so different from what we've been seeing in Weewa. Like, okay, yeah, we still have YRP in it, but it's still in kind of a weird form.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no way to really avoid it. Weewa really is Yerp at this point still.
Yeah,
So,
no matter what, you could do whatever you want with Weewa. It's always going to have Yerp in it.
Yeah, because it's just not, you can't, it's too good. You can't get away from it. So, should we look at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Or Jono's?
Jono's?
Yeah, Jono's.
Bizarre Adventure
Sorry.
Curse
Yeah,
is Unbreakable.
Yeah. True. Well,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
pretty
boy.
interesting. This is all over the place.
This is a deck, all right. You're right. Putting it lightly, it's all over the place. Oh my god. I would kill. Who made this deck? It was Jonathan something. Jonathan. Oh, I don't want to attempt that last name because I don't want to like get it so wrong.
Jajono? I say Jajono.
Yeah, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Jajono. Yeah, Silent T.
But this is still such an interesting deck. So you're running 1 2-drop backup in Chaos.
Yep.
And just everything is high.
Everything
just
is high and a one of.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's just
with the exception of Star Sybil and Toto.
And Sage, which is a recursion.
Well, there's some forwards that are something else, but
well, right, but like we're talking backups, yeah.
This is just a deck that could just slam down something big every single turn. You're always going to be hitting at least one thing off Nail. You're always going to be killing something with Fasoya. Golbez is a spicy choice in this deck. 2 Yzmat. This is quite the deck. A lot of recursion I'm finding, a lot of draw, a lot of kind of search. Interesting. Didn't have more buzz. I don't remember people talking about it that much.
I mean, this card didn't make much, or this deck didn't make much of a splash, but
yeah, but still third in nationals.
It was still third in Australia Nats, man.
Yeah, out of 48 players, but that's still like the 48 best players in Australia if it's nationals.
Yeah.
Like,
dang, it's such a like mishmash of just good stuff, but like it works.
It works.
I like looking at this like puke. I can't complain, but I want to. Like I want to say, "What the fuck are you doing?" But like, it works.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. I hate it. I love to hate it and hate to love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Man, I actually might start looking around for some like interviews with him because I'd love to get the idea behind that deck.
Oh, for sure.
This is the first deck on this entire episode that's like stumped me. Everything else I remember or I understand. That's just the one that I'm like, okay, dude.
Like, I get how it works, but I'm just looking at it and I don't want it to work.
Yeah.
Ugh. But good for you, Jono. You kicked some ass there.
So let's move
let's
back into
push.
some familiar territory with the North American Nationals, which we followed quite.
Well, of course, we had some friends there,
serious.
didn't we?
Yes, we'd like to point out we got to stretch and flex this out. Friend of the podcast, I'd say that kind of loosely. Emmanuel Padilla.
Does he pronounce it
came in second
Padilla
at
or
this
Padilla?
tournament. I'm so sorry. I'm such a dingus. Anyway.
Well, I'm just asking.
E-Man.
Does he? I'm asking. Does he pronounce? I don't know. If I've never heard him
Yeah.
pronounce his last name.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
So.
it's Padilla. If he's gonna listen to this episode and just be like, "Come on, guys, come on." But anyway, hi, E-Man. We're so used to just calling him E-Man that
Yeah.
it's just kind of. But anyway, so we've got Sam Prime
Mhm.
coming in first with E-Man, who we were very closely, following. And throughout this list, we start to see, some stuff that we've seen before, but there's definitely some screwballs. There's definitely some
Correct.
things that we didn't super see.
Right.
And something that I really like, something that I'm quite fond of, is Mono Lopez. Or something that I was talking to E-Man about before he went off to Nationals is, I was like, what are you expecting to see? Or this was kind of in chat, but we were like, what are you expecting to see? Like, we're going to see Weewa, probably going to see Agriz, probably going to see Mono Lightning or Mono Ice. But what else are you planning on seeing? And he said, I think Mono Fire is going to be really good going into this tournament. And he was right, because we have Mono Lopez and Cody Ugood, 2, and Dragon of Darkness Flame, 3 Mono Fire decks in top 8. Which is insane.
It is insane.
For a deck that was almost completely off the radar.
Right? We saw a lot of mono ice here. We saw fire getting splashed into things and being halvesies. We saw some Agrius play. We saw some. We still saw some ice, earth kicking around, but with some wind thrown in for some protection, particularly in Ishtola and Aerith and Zidane. And that kind of stuff.
Also, Semelafina just to make Star Sybil cheaper.
Right. And I got to be that guy that throws it out there, though. That I remember watching the final game, and man, Sam Prime versus E-Man, they were running almost identical Weewa decks.
Yeah,
they had a strong mirror.
The only big difference was E-Man was running Veritas, while Sam was running
Fusoya.
Yuri?
No, Fusoya in the back row.
Yeah, which is a very interesting choice.
But it worked out for him.
It worked out wonderfully.
I remember being really sad that E-Man didn't get a fair chance to fight with that mirror match in the last game because his deck bricked so hard. Even the commentators were talking about it, about how
about that.
He can't see a backup. He's got 2 backups. He can't do a thing, and it was just real disappointing to watch. But I mean, ultimately, he did get to. I don't want to say he got his vengeance or anything, but he did take a higher place at Worlds.
Yeah.
Later on.
Spoilers. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we won't talk about his decks, but he did do well at Worlds.
Yeah. They both. Yeah. I mean, they both made it to Worlds. So.
Yeah. But even now, these are the versions of Weewa that we're used to. So Sam Tool went, I don't want to say off the rails, but he did something differently by using Fusoya.
You mean Sam Prime?
But Sam Prime, yes, my bad. So he was using Fusoya, but outside of that, we see exactly what we expect to see now. He was also running Ash, which is a little spicy. But 3/3 drops Zidane, Y'shtolas, Aerith, which you still see kind of on and off. He was running Cecil, which was a little spicy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ran 3 5-drop Yunas, which wasn't unheard of, but you still didn't see all the time.
Yeah, three of there was odd. As an optional, one of, and then 2 of the 2 drops was pretty standard at the time.
Because if you compare him to E-Man was running 3 of the 2-drop Yuna and none of the 5-drop Yuna. And 5-drop Uno was such spice because number one, it was an answer to Veritas. Veritas still got his ETB, but he never got his leave the field. And he was also running Chaos Walkers, which was just a 3-drop removal, just hard removal if you had Uno out.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Weewa is good, and pretty much any spin on it is right. There's no real wrong spin on Weewa. It's just good.
The devil's just really in the details for both of these builds.
Absolutely.
Like, they're on the surface, you're just like, oh, he's just running Fusoya and he's running Veritas instead. But when you really dig into like the numbers, when you dig into like the slight differences, the 1 or 2 card differences, there's a lot of thought put into both of them.
Yeah, I remember in particular, just the Chicago people who were going to Nats, they went through at least 20 iterations of every deck they played, both of each of their decks. Because I believe we had Brian, we had Nick, we had E-Man, and was anybody else there? I guess somebody else was there.
I believe Maverick was there.
Did Mav made it?
I don't remember. I thought he did.
I don't remember everybody who was on the list. Obviously, we were very happy for all of them, but E-Man's the one who stood out because he made it the furthest.
Second.
Second place, and we were just kind of all focusing on even the people who didn't get there from Chicago, who didn't get to where he was. We're all just like, okay, you know what? I'm out. Root for E-Man.
Yeah. We were all just sitting back, just like, you go. It's just such a good feeling. And I'm sure a lot of the California guys, I'm sure like all of Sam Prime's friends feel the same way.
Oh, for sure.
Just kind of seeing someone in your crew do super well is just such an uplift for the entire crew. It doesn't matter if it's not you. It doesn't matter that like you couldn't get to nationals. Just seeing someone in your crew, seeing someone that you know and that you've played against do well is such a high.
Yeah, because ultimately, really at the end of the day, you do still win when they win because they're going to come back and ideally, right, assuming they're not a jerk off, they're going to impart that knowledge onto you. They're going to imbibe you with, or imbue you with that experience. They're going to share everything they learned and talk to you about it. And basically, the whole community is going to theoretically get better because of their success.
Yeah.
So maybe next year, that'll be you in their spot. And then you'll pass the buck. You'll push the envelope along with everybody else. I'm using the incorrect metaphors here, but you just work with it, okay?
Yes, you, the listener. We believe in you. If you make top 8 at Worlds, shout us out, please. It'll be great.
Thanks. Yeah, do it.
Love you.
So, enough talk about North American events.
So back to, let's go through just these. Well, okay, I'll do just a quick little overview of what else we saw at Nats.
Sure.
So we're seeing quite a bit of Agrius. There's 4 that I see here. Once again, Fire Ice is still making a showing. Mono Ice is still making a showing.
Mm-hmm.
We've completely moved away from Earth Ice. And a lot of still just spicy builds. We're still seeing a little Weewa, but it's not as dominant as we've seen previously. And we even see a Mono Wind build making 3rd, which is still cool to see.
Right.
It's kind of on its way out. It used to be this major deck in Opus 9 and Opus 8 and Opus 7, but now it's starting to patter out, and we kind of see it because it only has 1 representation in top 8 of Worlds.
Yeah, things are tapering off with that one, but also keep in mind, in case you didn't pick it up, Nats for North America was a 2-deck format, as it always is, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that one.
Yes.
But yeah, so we're going to mention when things are 2-deck format because 2-deck format is a different meta. It takes many, many, many elements from the standard meta, but it adapts in some very subtle and particular ways that we can go into more detail about later or in a different video or whatever. But just keep that in mind when we mention the 2-deck format. There are some subtle differences from standard meta.
I think that's enough about Worlds. I feel like the only other thing worth mentioning is there were favorites going in with Agrius and Weewa and even Mono Ice, But Mono Fire was really just the thing that kind of came into being during that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of this well-known. It was beginning to become well-known, but Mono Fire had always really been known for aggro, and we've seen kind of aggro builds earlier in this episode.
But now
But
Mono
it's
Fire
now
was
that-
stall.
Hard stall. It was hard control.
Yep.
And it's a very interesting build. And we're probably going to see a little bit more of that going forward. But I think now it's time that we get to the Knights of the Round
Absolutely. So
later.
So only 21 participants, but it was considered a major
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
well, it
I
says
put
it
this
was
here for a very specific event. Or I put it here for a very specific reason.
yeah. So here, would you like to talk about it, Ty, or can I mention it? It doesn't matter.
Not the last one, so you could go free. You could go
Okay.
ahead.
Cool. So here's where we see the first large scale appearance of WAF before Worlds.
Mhm.
So because as we saw in the interviews of top level players, particularly some of the Japanese players at Worlds, WAF, they were like, yeah, we saw it at locals and we figured that might actually be really good. Here's where, again, on a large scale, this deck was probably brewing in teeny little cells all over the world.
I
But
knew it was popular in Japan.
yeah,
I know that there was like a lot of Japan locals that were running WAF.
but it didn't get to show on the larger scale events
Yeah.
until here, where
Exactly.
we see Make It Rain, take first place. And so this is something that we saw very similar builds to at Worlds. I think the Ifrit is not terribly popular in the later builds. Zodiark, not terribly popular in the later builds. It's still there.
Yeah, Zodiark is basically fallen out.
Yeah,
The Ifrit's kind of stuck around, but the Phoenix is also gone.
right. But overall,
Huh.
this deck this is the inkling. This is the first inklings of a very dangerous deck.
It was literally like people really testing the waters with it, just saying like, okay, is this as good as people are hyping it up to
Mm-hmm.
be? And there was one answer to that, and that was yes.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. But other than that, we start seeing again large scale performance of stuff like Ran Paradex as well.
Oh, something I think is worth pointing out.
Okay.
The player who was running the Rampier deck in that game or in that tournament
Mm-hmm.
was one Clint Johnson.
You're right.
Yes.
That's a familiar name for us.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that literally in a couple tournaments.
Yep.
Um,
But here we see some other stuff.
we'll get there.
Some lightning, water, Agrius stuff, I assume.
Yeah, Waterfalls, Agrius.
Yeah.
Holy Sword should be Agrius too.
I'm looking at Icy Hotness at the moment, and I'm seeing, not a whole lot of surprises here. Forward lineup runs Elise, which is interesting. But the rest
But
of it's pretty
otherwise,
normal.
Yeah, otherwise Fire Ice. We're starting to see Hien
Yeah,
kind of showing up.
yeah, Hein, Hien, however it's properly pronounced, is becoming more and more
Yeah.
of a big deal. Fasoya is showing, the face again, and I am still trying to see. I don't recall seeing, but I'm gonna look anyway. Where is there's a Felthanos in one of the Agrius decks. That's about it.
It's worth mentioning something that we've been kind of neglecting up to this point. This was the tournament where Opus 10 was legal.
Correct.
Opus 10 was introduced by the North American Crystal Cup in the form of the starter deck cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until after Nationals where we saw Opus 10 completely come into the meta.
Yeah, absolutely, fully legal at that point.
Yeah. Bit of a gap between Worlds and this, but this is like, or between Nationals and this. And this is like right when everybody was really gearing up for Worlds. And we were all kind of wondering, like, what are we going to see?
Well, Ty, I think it's about time we find out.
So let's jump into
Let's go.
2019
End of
World
November
Championship.
Worlds. We had 31 participants. I do believe one person couldn't make it.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
I forget exactly who it was, but here we have a 2-deck format, as Worlds has always been. But I believe the distinction was that the first year they did Worlds, they just gave every player any copy of any card they needed.
Yeah.
Just bar nothing. Here you go crazy. Second and third
play set of a card between decks. Like if you could run Shantotto in both decks, but you could only run 2 and then 1 in the other, or 1 and 1 in the other.
Yeah, here the rules have changed where your decks can share no cards.
Yeah.
Period. So if you have 2 of a card in one deck, you can't have that third one in the other deck.
Yeah.
And they did not distribute cards for free to the players.
Yeah.
Because at this
they
point,
started doing that in 2018, if I'm correct.
That rule changed. There were just too many cards to just have 30 play sets of.
Yeah, and too many players. Because I think the first Worlds was only a handful of players, not 30.
No, you're right. Yeah, it was like 12 players, I think. But it was a much harder fight to get there.
I would research this in the Final Fantasy TCG compendium, but I'm really scared of opening it, and I don't want to.
Same. I haven't unsealed mine either. I'm waiting for the 2018 one.
We'll see. Maybe we'll do 2018 and 2019 together or something.
I hope not. I want them together. Or I want them separate, but at the same time. But anyway, moving on to Worlds. Our players...
Going into this tournament, we weren't super sure of what to see, right?
Yeah, we were... I mean, everybody globally was just so unsure, and there was trepidation just surrounding all of it.
There were some rumblings, because people were like, oh, this Rampier deck is really gimmicky, but really good. Oh, this WAF deck's really good. Oh, Weewa's still very strong, and it just got a new toy. And, like, there was a lot of rumbling. Like, there was a lot of talk, but, there hadn't been that many major events between nationals, or U.S. nationals and Worlds. So we just kind of went into Worlds with a lot of people just kind of in bated breath to kind of see what the new meta was, what the Opus 10 meta was, and this tournament established it.
Yeah, and only players who were in Worlds were really keeping track of what was happening in the other regions, right? Because here in America, we weren't following Japan very tightly. We weren't following Singapore very tightly. Hell, we weren't even really following the UK and France very tightly either. So all those players from those areas that showed up here, they, if they brought something different, they caught us totally by surprise. But if we'd been watching, we would have known. But these players kind of had a vague idea of what to expect by, scrolling through what was reported on FFdex. Of course, not everything is reported, so they can't see everything. But in first place, we see Michitaro Yabuchi with some real crazy stuff here. Weewa, but Weewa running Citra, which had become a staple at the time.
This deck is very, very close to what we know of it today. This is actually very close to my build. I think the only real differences is running Chocobo, which is spicy.
I think the Ash is different from yours at this point.
Yeah, I don't run the Ash anymore. Oh wait, no, this is running 4-drop Ash, which I've been running. And I took the Yagbarashes out of my deck. But otherwise, it was a lot of stuff that we're used to seeing. It's running the 2-drop Yuna. It's running Pain. It's running the standard Europe package. Obviously, Valifor. Obviously Y'shtola, Zidane. Diabolos, yeah.
Brother.
A lot of stuff that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, a lot of the 10 stuff. This is par for the course at this point.
Yeah.
So, but then moving on to deck B, we have a very weird Ice Splash version of Ranpair.
Yeah. Which has since become like one of the main versions of Ranpair. The big versions of Ranpair is just Earth Lightning, and then, well, it's weird because Ranpair is kind of all over the place, really.
It's super versatile.
You could build Earth Lightning. Yeah, you could build Earth Lightning Rampier. You could build Earth Lightning Ice Rampier. I've seen some Earth Lightning Wind Rampiers.
Yeah, you really
Like the
just
deck
don't.
really is all over the
You
place.
really just don't see a lot of fire splashed in,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. Everything else is basically valid.
Yeah,
Go
that
nuts.
and water are like the two colors that just don't get any Rampier love.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a deck that can run Cloud of Darkness, which is a very good Rampier killer, this deck was running Kanekemui, which was a very interesting choice. We're seeing Lucretius to search Kanekemui, Luminous Puma, or Scaletoad. Scaletoad's another very good card in this deck.
Yeah.
And then even the one of Felthanos.
I see that I'm not surprised about just because of all the other stuff. It forces so much to happen.
Yeah, and it was just an outright answer to WAF.
True.
Which is, I think, at least part of the reason why this deck did so well. Like, it knew its competition. This guy knew this meta going into this. Like, he could see the future going into this tournament.
Yeah, right? And so could a lot of these other players.
Yeah.
Masayuki Yamada in second place with let's take a look here. We got WAF.
That deck B still blows me away of his. But yeah, let's look at deck A first.
Yeah, we'll go in order.
We're seeing a very cool WAF build. It has since become standard. Like, this is the one that we know.
Correct.
But still, at the time, this was such a spicy WAF deck.
Mm-hmm.
The one of Prompto, the one of Heretical Knight Garland. We've got Nail is a really good choice for this. That, people were starting to run when this deck came out. Sigard is another interesting one, just kind of for the mirror.
Yep. But overall, I mean, this deck slaps, and it's actually, barring some of those one-ofs, it's not too far off from the version Kim used to run, or does run now.
Yeah.
It's a solid deck. It's gross, and it got second place at Worlds only because it got countered by first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nothing to scoff at. Second place is still a big deal. Like, you leave, feeling pretty bad, but you get home and you're like, I just beat everybody else except for one person in the globe, effectively speaking. So, there you are. But we can move on to deck B.
Yeah, so this was the spice. This is a deck that I love watching only because it has my girl Shantotto just right in front there. So we're seeing a big bodies bounce deck where you're playing Arden, you're playing Shantotto, and you're just wiping the board constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You're using Hecatoncheir to snipe things. You're using Yojimbo to snipe things. You're using Alexander to snipe things. All the summons are insane. And on top of all of this, you've got the two copies of Doga.
Yeah.
Spice.
Yeah.
If that is not spice, I don't know what that is. And at Gigas, this entire deck is just all these super interesting choices.
I was super happy to see the Unsaganashi because people have been talking smack about that card for a little while, and I was just like, it's a localized Ishtola, and now there's 6 of that card in this deck, effectively.
Yeah.
So, no.
It's a slightly better Lail, too, if you're at 5 damage.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. So, this whole deck was unexpected, but I mean, that surprise factor and the fact that it's just functional in so many ways was...
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the epitomes. This is just one of those peak moments of innovation in this meta period.
Yeah. And it really shows just how much of a grasp of the meta that the top 2 players had.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, watching...
Both of them knew what they were getting into.
Well, watching that match at the time between them, the set that they were playing, every single play was 300 IQ, and the commentators could tell, the casters were just they know every card in each other's decks. Yeah. They know what's what. They're just, counting cards and guessing how many copies are in that person's hand at this time. Yeah. What are they going to play and when? Everything was carefully considered, and man, that was good to watch.
Yeah, these matches were nuts. But it was just so insane that they had counters for their counters for their counters.
Yeah.
Like, Yamada literally went in with the like killer deck. He went in with Waff, and he went in with a counter to Waff.
Yeah, no.
That's like a 4D chess move. Like, I'm going to play the best deck in the format and a deck that counters the best deck in the format.
Yep. Well, that and the fact that
And
it was more odd to see a turn without the stack being built and then resolving than a turn where, the alternative was the case.
Yeah. And like every other person going into this event had like a similar idea. They were like, I'm going to build something against the meta. I'm going to build the meta and I'm going to fight against the meta at the same time. And just the raw amount of just tech, and even if it's a small, very small tech, like if you look at the Alex Hancock Weewa build, it's a mostly normal, Weewa build, but he's still running Bart's. Like, he's still running just all these really smart cards. And it's just like the epitome of what those decks were at the time, and are, really.
Right. But then moving down, we have Joshua Freeman Birch once again.
Yep.
A staple in the global community at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You know the name. And even the commentators were just like, yeah, what a friendly guy. We know you.
Yeah. Something that I noticed, I'm looking through his Weewa list. It's very close to the first place one.
Correct. Which kind of implies that the lack of success on that part might have been deck 2. It might have been matchups, or it might have been just some awkward decision making, or heck, maybe the deck just bricked once. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's really all it takes, especially at Worlds. That's all it takes.
Right?
It literally takes your deck bricking once to be out of it.
Yeah, it takes one good top deck. We know I'm good at those. My luck is apparently a skill. It takes one lucky top deck from the opponent to be like, I've drawn the perfect card.
Yeah.
You're going down, Kaiba. And
it's. I'm also looking through his Rampure list, and it's
so good.
Peak performance.
Yeah.
Like, it's just how well you could build it, how laser focused.
It's so tight. Yeah, you're right. Laser focused is the right, phrase term to put to it. Like, you look and you're like, what do you take out? You struggle. Yeah. You flounder.
Like, I don't want to jump the gun, but I do feel like we can even like kind of start passing through some of these decks, because we're seeing just these laser focused versions of meta.
Yeah, for sure.
Because outside of that kind of rogue, almost Wind Earth in second place, outside of that we see a Ice Earth, a singular Ice Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Do I see a singular Ice Earth?
Alex Hancock's, yeah.
Yep, Alex Hancock's Ice Earth, which I built around a little bit.
Yeah.
And then what was...
Oh, I'd like to point out Taiki Hariai, because he had a really crazy Une deck.
Yes.
Utilizing Fasoya, Sephiroth, Yzmat, Fina, threw in the Ultimecia from Opus 7 starter from the dual decks. 14 summons for ultimate FU power.
Yeah.
And God, I remember watching this event, this match, and as soon as these decks went up, I sent this over to my coworker Andrew, not the one who went to Worlds for Weiss Schwartz. And he's a super huge fan of oppressive decks that basically don't let your opponent play. And I was like, hey, if you ever decide to get back into Final Fantasy, and he was just like, oh yeah, I'm building this. He looked at it for 30 seconds and he was like, yeah, I'm building this.
Good.
So, and then the Waff deck was also really solid from Taiki. Hey, it's just, these decks were hyper awesome. They were crazy, really, really good games to watch.
Yeah, I still remember, despite the fact that Masayuki Yamada got, I probably just Americanized the hell out of that name. Despite the fact that he got second, a lot of people were looking at Taiki's build.
Because it was
and a lot of people were...
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I didn't have a thought after that.
I was going to say, it was just so... Like, people had seen Une decks, but this one in particular, it's almost one of those, it's not the car, it's the driver kind of moments, because the things that Taiki pulled off with that deck in the moment were just, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Over and over, and just, it was shocking.
Yeah. He got a lot of love from the camera, from what I remember.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And he had a good show of things. He had a very WoF-feeling deck.
Yeah.
Then people wanted to run Frit. If you want to run Frit and Lon, they're too cute. Like, you gotta.
I mean, why not, right?
But at the same time, like...
Frit
was just so oppressive.
Oh, yeah.
Masayuki is the one that has become, like, the base of WoF now.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, but I feel like now I think is the time that we could finally move off Worlds. Like,
For sure.
We saw a lot of... We saw some things that we weren't expecting. Like, I was actually kind of expecting more Une decks.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that was like my long shot. I was going to say there was going to be 4 Une decks in top 8.
I mean, top 16 had quite a few.
And Une was a very hype card at the time, and it's still a very good card. But where the meta went from there and where we are in the meta right before Opus 11 came out, like, this just makes sense. It really feels like this tournament happened like last week, because it really feels like all of the decks that we've grown to know and the decks that we now know just represented. It felt like this is a tournament from the future where they all knew these were going to be the really good decks.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was all made mainstream here.
Yeah.
I mean, the top 8 players had their stuff, but a lot of the stuff from top 16 also made its way into the populace, giving us what we know now, or at least the start of it, where we can move on to the first major tournament following Worlds, which is the Singapore Championship in December following Worlds. So,
yeah, not too, just 2 weeks after it too, and just the immediate change of just immediately seeing World stuff, because we immediately get WoF, we immediately get WoF again, we get the Earth Wind, and then Weewa. So we immediately get 4 decks that were very represented in Worlds.
Yep, and then we get a Fire Ice, and oh, look at that, a mono Fire deck, and then a mono Ice deck, and then oddly a Golbez deck.
Yes. This Golbez deck. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but there's another tournament where E-Man was using a deck not too dissimilar from this one, but this one was kind of the first one that really showed, hey, I can get Golbez into my hand turn 1 by using cards like Prish, by using cards... Oh, he wasn't running the 4-drop Gabran. Interesting. But this is the first one that really started running the Prish to be able to search out the Golbez.
Yeah. Also, this Golbez deck had backups.
Yeah, 15 backups.
What?
It was still trying to keep the backup lineup thin.
Yeah, but 15 is still not tiny. Not anymore.
So I do love the tech. I talked to E-Man about this very briefly. I do love the tech of Star Sable into Prish into Golbez.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Yeah.
Very solid.
But yeah, outside of that, it's a lot of stuff that we've now are accustomed to. At the time, it was like really cool to see like a deck from Worlds immediately do well at another large event.
Oh, absolutely. So
yeah, base list was a little spicy now that I'm flipping through it. It's running a Scylla. It was running 3-drop Sephiroth, which I eventually picked up. Zalera is running a Zodiark. Emperor Gestalt. Interesting.
Well,
Move on the next one.
let's get on to the next event, which was the FFTCG Holiday Tournament, taking place immediately following Christmas and Hanukkah, I believe. And I don't recall what other celebrations were going on around that time, but I'm sure there were others as well. We only see top
Happy
four
holidays.
here. Yeah, happy holidays, whatever
Yeah.
you celebrate. And here we see 20 players, but we see top four. And we see an odd shift from meta a little bit.
Yeah, because we're seeing a Weewa deck, which we're, not, that's meta.
Yeah, but it's bounce
And
centric.
looking at this build, yes, it is bounce centric Weewa, which is a little goofy. It's also running that hard one Cloud of Darkness, which I always respect.
I was gonna say the Medine.
The Medine is also a very good, because it's Medine and Garnet, which is a spicy build. We saw people messing around with it a little bit in early Opus 8,
Yeah.
but it never took off.
Yeah. I still respect it. I like that card.
Yeah. And a very interesting mono water build.
Mhm.
I initially thought that this was the Citra OTK, or the Folka OTK rather, but I was very wrong. It's Prince, Princess. It's Prince and Princess centric.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen that since it's been a while. And usually this kind of stuff shows up in multicolor, but we see a mono water variant. And it did pretty well.
Yeah.
And for cheap too, $60.
What I think is cool is it was running one of the cards that's considered largely a bad card, and it was running Arya 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was
I
an
mean,
interesting build to say the least.
all things considered, it's not as bad as it could be though. It's give your stuff a 1K. But,
Yeah.
You know, still.
We see the Earth Wind that we saw at Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
We see that Shantotto, we see an Arden, we see Izamat, the same general summons. This one isn't running. No, the last one wasn't running vanilla either, but this one's running the spicy one of Kane. Star Sibyls, Agitos, and then there's even the two Dogas. So that's not too dissimilar from the Worlds list. And then another another Princess deck.
Yeah. No, these decks were interesting, but again, we're only seeing 4 of these decks, so who knows what the rest were. But I would imagine they're not too far off the meta. So, moving on from that, we have the Dota LAN Volksmassen,
which we have to bring up was
yeah.
a Dota tournament, a Defense of the Ancients tournament that just happened to be sponsored by FFTCG.
And thus they had a side event of 66 players.
This is a lit side event.
True.
Looking at this top 8 deck, these are all decks that we've seen at Worlds. Because immediately you're hit with Ice Earth Flan, Waff, a Mono Wind, which is pretty spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see? Yep, we see that FFCC engine. There's the Vada, there's the Yuri, there's everything that you want to see. But we're seeing Tricolor Rampier, Waff, Une, or Tricolor Une, and then Weewa. So I don't want to focus too much on this tournament because it is a lot of things that we've seen before. I'm just kind of flicking through the list to see if there's just anything too crazy
but
that we
see
haven't.
A resurgence for a moment of Mono Wind.
Yeah, which is really weird, just kind of out of nowhere.
It's almost as if somebody just didn't realize Opus 10 came out.
Someone who's just like, I've been out of the game for a year, might as well swing back in with my still competitive deck.
The only Opus 10 card in here is Pinello in the back row for the 1K at damage 3. Other than that, Yizmat from Opus 9 and Fina from Opus 8, Aerith from Opus 8, and that's this person legit was just like, been out the game a little while, but Mono Wind's still good, right? And then it was.
And then second place. Yeah, he still did super well.
That's fun. Yeah, that's cool. Good for them.
Yeah.
Good
That's
for
the
you,
main
Sasha.
reason why we wanted that on the list, is because it was a Dota LAN tournament.
I mean, 66 people's nothing to scoff at either in early January.
Oh yeah, it's nothing. It's bigger than some of these other majors.
Yeah, for sure. But good for you, Sasha.
Yeah. Yes. move on. We still have quite a bit of lists to go through.
We're almost there. We're getting there. We have the
Yeah.
RVA Returners Summoners Cup, one of the earlier Summoners Cups, toward the end of January, where the winning deck.
Before we get into the winning deck, I want to point out the second place deck, non-foil low, is $436.
Oh my god.
Running 3 Sephiroth, it's running 3 Fasoya, 1 Felthanos. What are other expensive cards in this deck?
Kane.
The Cloud
Kane's
of
kind of
Darkness,
expensive.
Kane.
Shantotto's.
The Gabrant's $20.
Minvilia's
at
like
least.
10 or 11.
That Star Sibyl's 6, and it's a playset. Like, a lot of really expensive cards in this deck. And
let's bet that they were foil and or promos.
yes. Definitely.
So, hope they took out an insurance policy before they traveled with it.
Yeah. And then, now let's look at the first place deck.
Which costs $4.
Non-foil low, $4.24.
It was less than that yesterday. This deck is 39 forwards, 6 summons, and 5 backups. 2 of those backups are immune to bounce the other 3 backups to replay them.
No joke. If we took a half-hour break, I could build this deck right now. I have my bulk right next to me.
Yeah.
I could just reach into there and grab everything.
This deck has...
This deck...
It has, what, 3 H's? Yeah, that's it. 3 H's. Yeah. Everything else... No, sorry, 6 H's from the 2-drop Chocobo summon.
Not a single L.
Not a single L. This whole deck is $4. It's all bulk. Every single card in here is bulk. This deck doesn't go...
Is so
This deck didn't go away, by the way. We'll see it once more.
Yeah.
So...
Yes.
This
Still
event,
foreshadowing.
This event happened. But then,
yes,
you know, some of the other decks. Bill and Kim will be happy to see that we had a Warrior of Light Rainbow deck, coming in about $150. But both of them play variants of this deck. So
yeah, and this was a build that wasn't too far away from Bill's, which surprised me.
Bill is running. I think he cut the fire.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that this one is running the Opus 2 Ingus.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think... Does he have any targets? 2 or costs from the... Okay, his backups are his targets for the Ignis effect.
Yeah, which...
You can hit the Sages, the Arch, and the Archer off of it.
Yeah, and then you sack it for the 4-drop Ingus. Or 3-drop? Yeah, it's 3-drop. Yeah.
With what?
I'm just saying, like, you let it die or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you let it drop for the 3-drop Ingus, yeah.
Also utilizing the relatively new Opus 10 Arc and Opus 10 Refia.
Yeah. So, pretty good cards in context. This deck almost seems like just an experiment to see how far they would get, and, I mean, they got top 8, so cool.
And it is a good deck. It's really cool to see a 4-color deck really take over that's, like, not Rampier.
Yeah, definitely.
So well.
Oh, yeah. So moving on from this one, there's not really much to talk about inside of this 40-person tournament besides that.
There is one more thing to talk about.
Okay, what?
There's a third-place deck named I Thought We Were Playing UFS. Guys, yeah, we're just seeing Rampier, Mono Ice, Weewa, Waff. We're seeing a lot of stuff that we're expecting to see, but the fact that a $4 deck just took it all, Burbs. And I guess in a like best out of 1 format, that's very strong.
Yeah, good. You know, Ethan Kierskarski, I salute you.
Yeah.
You absolutely crazy SOB. You
can't see it, but we're saluting you right now.
Indeed. So here we see...
So let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, the Uni Young Team Scotland Open with 38 players, sponsored by Tokyo Toys. It looks like they're sponsored. I don't friggin' know. So here we see... I thought something we've forgotten to mention, that Citra is still one of the most utilized cards in the meta.
Yeah, it's seen play in almost every Weewa deck.
Yeah, basically since Opus 10 dropped.
A little play in the Earth and Wind decks.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, I don't want to say like, oh, everybody in this tournament was net decking. That's obviously a lie. But we're seeing a lot of stuff that we're used to. Immediately top 3, we're seeing Rampier,
Weewa,
Weewa, and then the
Earthwind.
Earth Wind deck, which has really been kind of taking over these tournaments more than I remember.
Yeah, it's
Like these
subtle.
decks are doing a lot better than I remember. But at the same time, this deck also looks fun as hell. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, right. I also want to point out that in toward the lower end of the top 16 listing here, we get to see a mono Earth deck.
Yes,
Hey.
certified Waff Slayer. And looking at this deck, this is definitely a certified Waff Slayer.
Yep. Camelot.
This deck is made just to counter Waff. Now that I'm looking
we get
at
a
it.
Shadow Lord though.
Yeah.
Shadow Lord, Reagan, Hein. We got a little Arc. How much dark is in here? 7 cards. Okay, it's just a bunch of 1-ofs, but like still.
Yeah.
Wow. F you off.
Yeah, this is hard anti-Waff.
Yeah. For sure. So,
Yeah.
we even get to see Opus 5 Wall come back. That card barely saw any play since Opus 8.
Yeah, really.
So, good for that. It's funny, there's still one of the most expensive cards in the... Well, it's dropped down a bit now. But until...
Yeah, non-foil low is like 16 now.
Until Worlds, though, that card was still like $25-$30 for no reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this event was pretty... A lot of standard stuff.
Yeah, a good example of the meta at the time.
Yeah, nothing surprising, really. I mean, we see these... We see the... We see this fire water deck pop up. That's
I'm flipping through that right now, and it does have some very spicy choices, like the Caius.
Yeah, I was just about to say. The Caius is there. The Dominion Legionary was nice for the continual, ramp of your backups.
Yep.
And yeah, everything. I mean, oh, the 3-drop guy.
Yes, the 3-drop guy is also an
from
interesting
Opus
choice.
6.
Which
Pre-release
category
promos.
2 character? Huh.
Yeah. Huh.
Oh, he's running Minwu. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah. So, yeah. So aside from those, nothing too spicy.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Oh, wait, Layla is category 2? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I really like the train of thought in this deck. Really seemed random to me, but now that I'm looking at this deck, I like it.
No, it checks out.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, unlike our viewers, who we can pray are still here.
Yes.
But let's back up here and check out one of my favorite events of all time.
Our favorite event.
That we got to have a personal hand in.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of things to do with this event. I came up with the name. We even we got our channel linked here because we cast it on YouTube. We were having a great time with that.
We will link the entire cast in the description.
Correct.
We have it all recorded. It's all on YouTube.
Yep.
Feel free to watch it.
We put 17 hours of work total into this event.
Yes. This was
at the venue.
From literally from dawn to dusk, we were there and working it. And
we were there the night before. We were there the morning of, bright and surly, and
I was doing a little judging. Like
Ty was brushing up on the rules before the event. I was making graphics, and oh man, that whole event was great.
Amazing.
But let's start talking about the decks and the actual gameplay.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to say, obviously we were both very biased towards this event, but I'm very happy to say that we don't see more of the same in this one. Obviously we're going to be seeing Rampier. Obviously we're going to see a little Waff, but we're seeing a lot of spice and a lot of really weird stuff in these.
Yeah, I mean, even from walking around in the lower bracket stuff. Seeing stuff like Jake's Ice Wind, monster deck, or Ice Water, and then his Chocobos. Seeing all the other players who are running weird Mono Lightning builds, weird I think there were like some lightning ice builds flopping around, and there was just weird stuff everywhere, and I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
But what we got to see,
a lot of great stuff.
Oh, a lot of great stuff. But what we got to see from the casting chairs, sitting and actually casting the games directly with a camera, we got to see first place being taken by. Keep in mind also 2-deck format here. We see a player who went by the name G, topping with Mono Lightning and the $4 Chocobo deck.
Yes.
I think it's almost a perfect 1-for-1 net deck on the Chocobos.
Yes. And that was something you could, if you click the YouTube link, we did interview him at the end of it.
Yeah.
Where I believe he mentions that.
He straight up said, like, I saw this deck in the event from, like, not even a week ago, and I was like, yeah, that's a pretty cool deck. I'm gonna play that. Yeah, it was like a week and a half ago.
G for just being candid about it. Instead of just saying like, oh yeah, I researched the deck. Oh yeah, I looked into it. He's just like, yeah, no, I just net decked it.
No, he was a really chill dude. We didn't get to talk for long, but he was.
The balls on that guy, I love it.
Oh, it was great. No, just hearing him talk was fun because like he was so tired, but he was so candid. He was just like, you know what, I just want to go home. I'm gonna get this interview done with. I'm checked out. Here's what you want to hear.
Yeah, shoutouts to G. If
cool
G's
dude.
watching this, shoutouts to you, man.
Yeah,
oh my
cool
God.
Dude. Great performance in the event. And yeah, I mean, we see this deck.
Yeah, that we're just like out of left field. So we immediately see Burbs, which we saw earlier, but it's still it was kind of considered a joke deck. People were like, "Oh, what? People lost to this?"
Yeah, but no, they don't account for that win by turn 3 strategy.
Yes, but his other deck is one that I took a lot of interest in.
Yeah, as a Mono Lightning player on the side myself, this was pretty dope.
Yeah, we saw it previously. I believe the deck name in the last turn was called Setetsuken.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
And yeah, because it mainly revolves around the Odins and Lightning, which when Opus 10 came out was kind of an underrated card. People weren't too fond of it. People were kind of looking at it like, what do I do with this? This seems like an interesting build around. But this was like the first deck to really capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Being able to just play a 6-drop Lightning who almost costs 2 because you're searching Odins off of it.
Yeah.
Like that's handy.
Yeah,
it's handy dandy.
And then having the Sakura and the Estinian, of course Sid Previ at 3, the one of backup Ramza, which is one of my. Honestly, there's so many cards that I love in this game in the lightning color. I wanted to put this on my favorite cards list. But like just all this whole deck just works.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stone throw away from like what we're used to with Mono Lightning and what we've seen in Mono Lightning.
True.
Because we are seeing the staples. We're seeing the Illawa, Estinian, Fasoya, Felthanos, Kane. But
Zemus comes back.
Also still seeing... Yeah, Zemus. But we're also seeing some interesting stuff. Judge of Wings, which we were a little surprised to see.
That was a really odd
bad
one.
Odins. Yeah, the bad Odins was quite a sight to behold. Raiden, just as a Felthanos counter.
Yep.
But the backup lineup is closer to home. It's stuff that we're more used to. The Ramza, the Sid Previa, Lulu, Gramus, King of Bermesia, Louis Sois.
Yeah, all the backups are about what we'd expect, but the forwards and the summons are really funky. Catch people off guard. The 4-drop Adia even is like, wait, people are using that? And, I mean, with the way this board held a presence, it makes sense.
Yeah. I built this deck after the tournament, and I've been messing around with it. And to this day, that's the only card I haven't been able to figure out. That's the only card that I'm just like, why were you running this? Like, I understand it, but it's just like, I don't know. It's still kind of iffy for me.
If I were to build this deck, I wouldn't run it. But that being said, I don't think other people shouldn't run it.
Yes.
So, but moving on from G's decks, second place, we have our Envy Games friend here, Brian Garrity. Welcome back to the spotlight.
Two great deck names: A Moment of Violence, A Moment of Silence.
Yep.
We're seeing a relatively standard Rampier build.
Yeah. So this one we saw a few times here. It's, not, again, it's just something, it's a deck we've seen a lot of. The one of Felthanos is optional.
One thing that is a little spicy is the Cloud of Darkness.
I was about to get there, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's still, it's still a $13 card for a reason. But being thrown in here, you gotta wonder, how do you cast that? Well, you,
pitch the other Cloud of Darkness, you dingus.
Basically, I was gonna say, basically, I'm playing it up, but like, yeah, no, it's, I'll sit here and I'll show everybody the backup lineup.
Yeah.
Here's all your ice stuff and your lightning and your earth. There's no multicolor stuff. There's no chaos. There's no cosmos, and there's no any of the backups that filter. There's no multicolor backups. There's nothing. No, just it's you pitch the other Cloud of Darkness.
Yeah, not even the chaos.
Yep. No room for it.
And then, but are you ready to move away from Rampier?
Let's get to the spice.
This was a deck that we talked to Nick about it, and we talked to Brian and Chocobo Joe. And this was a deck that they were working on for a little while. Chocobo Joe was also running a variation of it.
Mm-hmm. Almost identical.
Yeah, of Fire Water Goblins. And you're probably just sitting there. If you didn't see this event coverage, you're probably like, Fire Water Goblins in top 2? And yes. So this deck, from what I remember them telling us, was a big product of, okay, we want to counter that, so we should run this. But if we're running this, we could run this. But if we're running this, we could run this. And it was just kind of a constant train of thought that led on to this goofy deck that we have in front of us today.
Yeah, it was almost, the way they worded it was kind of a stream of consciousness in chat that turned into two almost identical decks in the... They were both in top 4.
Yeah.
So, and for $43.
Remember, the first thing is, how do we tackle Felthanos?
Mm-hmm.
We run Famfrit, right? Oh, if I'm running Famfrit, I can run Water, so I can run Porom. Well, if I'm running Porom, I could use other fetch summons. The Ifrita package is really good right now. Let's run the Ifrit package. Oh, if I'm running the Ifrit package, I should be running Terra. And like, it just kept going on and on from there. And there's all these very spicy picks, including the Goblins.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it also became one of those, well, I don't need this forward. Well, I got monsters. Oh, monsters are cool. Okay, let's do that. And then, the Royal Ripeness for the mirror match.
Ripeness for the mirror match and for the mono fire match.
It's just nuts. All this.
I still remember, we could go back to the stream when he played that, and we're like, what does that card do again?
No, you were like that, because I remembered that card.
I was just like, what is this card?
I have like 40 of those. We had to Google that one. Like, wait, give me a second.
The Goblin was, what does that do again? Is that what it,
the Goblin is the one we had to look up. It just becomes a 5-drop, or a 5k with when it attacks, choose a forward, deal it 1k.
Yeah, and then same with the bomb. Like, we were just like, a bomb? That does what?
Yeah, right?
There was just so much of that, and this deck just had an amazing show. It's very good for the mono fire matchup.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very control-y deck. It sneaks the damage in where you don't expect it to be through the goblins and bombs.
Yeah. Well, it also avoids a lot because you can't take care of them until they're forwards typically.
Yeah.
So it's just really off, it's off the rails. Even Varina in the back row is just people like, wait, what? There's a card that searches specifically goblins? Yeah, there is. Most people don't remember.
Card that like everybody just looked over because we're like, why would we want to search a goblin?
Yeah, who cares about goblins? Well, apparently second place in this tournament does.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah.
He wasn't running her at 3, but she was still just a card that, just helped out.
Yep, every penny puts you closer to $1.
Yeah. This is another super cheap deck, capping at $40.
Yep, basically.
I think the most
foil's
expensive
pretty expensive though.
Yeah. I think the Cloud's the most expensive card in this deck, honestly.
At $4,
Flipping through.
Citra.
Citra's at Citra's
Just a
4.
few cents more.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, those are the only two cards that break like $3.
Although I'm disappointed that my Royal Ripeness stash ain't gonna get me a fortune. Because I was joking after the event. Oh man, well I got like 30 of that card. I can sell them now that it's popular.
Yes.
But it didn't win the event, so.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. So I don't want to go too in depth about Clint Johnson's decks, because he was running a lot of stuff that we're used to. Because I'm looking through his Rampure list, nothing too crazy, nothing too out of the blue.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna start flipping through his Weewa deck as well. But we're seeing a lot of stuff that we've been seeing up until now: Porum, Ash, Ketis, being able to flicker the Miyun, Scholar, Yag Barash, etc. But I still have to give him a shout out because Clint Johnson, or Johnson as he wanted to be called on stream, he was just a super solid player.
Yeah, it was super. Well, he's solid. He was chill. He kept his cool, and he just kind of played it.
He showed up. Yeah, he showed up with two decks that he knew everybody was building against, and he was still like, "I'm just gonna go through this."
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, whatever. You know what? I'm just here to kick ass and have fun."
He really showed just how strong that deck was too.
Yeah, for sure.
Both of them, really. He was. Shout outs to Clint Johnson if he's watching too.
Yeah, definitely.
Quick shout outs to Brian as well. Like, quick shout outs to everybody who top eighted. Like,
oh yeah, no, that was a great event. Everybody was really cool. I wish we could have had a chance to cast more games. As you know, we had a lot of the same people showing up on the stream over and over. It's just how the tables ended up working out.
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll do it better with the Summoners Cup whenever that happens.
Next one.
But so if we look on to fourth place, we have Chocobo Joe. His Fire Water deck is almost identical to Brian's, so we're gonna skip that one.
There's a couple. I will point out he's running slightly different Ifrits. The backer package is more or less the same.
Yeah.
Same with the monster package. The forward lineup's a little different, but
they're close overall.
They both follow the same train of thought.
Yeah, they're both within the same school of ideas that, you know, this is a good idea, and yeah, it is. It was.
Yeah.
It worked. But what's more important is his odd Rise of Zalart deck.
Yeah.
It was a Ranpair variant, running surprisingly high amount of dark cards.
Yeah. But my favorite thing about it is it touches down on almost every color.
Yep. Save for water.
Yeah.
Cloud of Darkness was in fact ice this time.
Seeing in here, like, obviously we're seeing the Rampure stuff. We're seeing what we're expecting to see. But he's also making sure that he can go into Paradise if he wants to. He's running 2 of the Ice Eldnarsh and 1 of the 6-drop Eldnarsh. And he just kind of always has that option open for him. And in Rampure, that's very, very strong. When you can go from a 1 forward board to a 4 forward board in 1 turn relatively easy, like, it's... Yeah, having that ability to just push for game is very valuable.
Oh, yeah. Well, also with that Golbez, if you didn't mention that one.
Yeah, like Golbez was... I still remember... What did he hit off the top? He Golbezed into something ridiculous, but I can't remember what it was.
I think it was a Fasoya. It might have been Fasoya or Kane.
Either way, like, an insane hit. He did that against Matt Rice, too.
Yeah.
And still, my favorite quote from that entire tournament is, "What am I going to do with all these forwards, Matt? What am I going to do with all these forwards?"
And they lost it. We picked it up on camera, and it was just everybody was having a good laugh. That was great. Super friendly match.
I think it was a blast.
Oh,
but yeah, and then on top of that, a little extra spice that he has, he's running Nail. That he could pay for with Chaos.
And
he's also running Fina, which saw play, which we saw at the tournament. We saw him pull out that kind of spicy, play where he was able to play. I think he played Fina and then flickered it with Renoa.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Insane play or he star symboled it in and then flickered it with Renoa. Like,
yeah, one way or another was gross.
I just realized that's how he played the Cloud of Darkness. He could Star Symbol into it.
Oh yeah, you're right, aren't you?
Yeah, wow. I feel like a dingus now. But anyway, now that we've seen that, like, obviously it's your normal Rampure build, but there was quite a bit of spice in here.
Yeah, I mean, we also got later on down the line in 5th place we got Curtis DeGidio with a mono water and a mono lightning. Mono lightning actually not too far off from what G used for 1st place.
Yeah, he was probably using the same deck as a base. He was probably still looking at that ShantottoCast deck.
Yeah, just with a couple of minor variations. I don't believe the Enuo was in G's version. That's still a really interesting add, though. I respect it. And I don't think the Mayo was there either. But other than that, pretty similar. Mono Water was about what you'd expect from right around this era.
Some of that princess that came in.
Yeah.
That princess tribal almost. Because we're seeing Ash, we're seeing Garnet. Or no, that Garnet's a summon. Interesting. Okay, never mind. But we're still seeing a prince. There is, a bit of spice to this deck. There's options.
Yeah, a lot of people brought their A game to this event. Like, it was crazy.
I'm actually kind of sad that we didn't see this deck on stream. I'd love to see this deck perform.
Yeah, right? But lower than that, we saw Jeffrey Hawthorne running Ranperrier.
Sounds like a YouTube poop.
Yeah, right? And Waffles. Which, those kind of give away exactly what they are. And then...
Yeah, I'm looking through the Rampure list, and it's nothing too crazy. He opted out of the 7-drop Shantotto for a 6-drop Prompto, which I think is really cool.
That's fine, yeah.
Still running the 3 Star Symbols. We've got Fasoya, Sephiroth. Yeah, kind of what you're expecting to see.
Yeah, and then we also see in 7th place our boy Maverick Sharks.
Shoutouts to Maverick. We'll be seeing him again soon.
Yep, running one of your favorites, Ice Earth, and Waff. And then in 8th place, we saw Poverty God playing Mono Fire and Oh, You're Approaching Me, which was a Wind Earth deck with some light in there.
Yeah, similar to what we're used to, which was kind of using Shantotto to blow up the field.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that we've seen, but I did really like his mono fire build. It's not too far away from where it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
Gazillion Ifrits.
Right. But yeah, this whole event was great. I wish we could have shown more games on stream, but we got what we got. And Poverty God probably would have done a little bit better with that fire deck if his matchups
if he didn't have to stare down a Royal Ripeness.
Right? Like, his matchups were just awful. So, he's a nice guy, though. He added us on Facebook, and he posts every so often. Pretty funny guy, pretty cool. But moving forward from that, we see Brixburst going on, which had a very diverse top 8.
Yes, we're seeing, right off the bat, we see Earth Lightning Rampure, which isn't something that we've seen too much of recently. We're used to seeing the Sephiroth build.
But you know what we're not used to seeing, Ty? You know what we're not used to seeing? 3rd place with Wind Fire?
I forgot about this. We were talking about this a little bit.
Yeah.
And this was such a goofy, interesting deck. Fire of all things. Using Manasvin,
yeah.
Manasvin Wormek.
It's a good card. I used to run that in my Mono Fire back in, Opus 5.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting, and being able to use it with Ohanalim. And being able to just hit the board for 4K.
Yep, that's big.
Yeah, that's very big.
Yeah.
Or being able to just make your Pinello deal 3K. Like, there's so much that you could just buff up and just, wipe out boards with.
Christmas came late, but man, when it showed up. Santa laid down the smack.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was a smaller tournament, but it still had a lot of very interesting choices going
Yeah,
into
for
it.
sure.
We see a Fire Ice build,
Mm-hmm.
A Fire Ice 6 build, which we haven't seen on a little bit.
Yeah, we get a mono Earth with a lot of dark in here.
We're seeing a Golbez deck.
Yep, I was just getting there too. Nicknamed Ultimate Net Decking. With Jake. Hey, that's a card we don't see very often.
Yeah, that's
I
a
used
card
to
that
run that in Scions.
we saw that card like right when it came out and like never again.
Yep. I got a billion of those. Anybody need some? You need some Jakes? I got a lot of Jake. But then Opus 5 Ramza Legend, which is a respectable choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gilgamesh from Opus 10, which is also a respectable choice.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of very cool choices, and we're going to see this deck again a little bit later.
Well, let's get to that then. Because
like worth pointing out, there was a mono ice and a mono earth in top 8 as well at that tournament.
I mentioned that. We got it. It's there.
Dope.
Don't worry.
All right.
It's all good. So
we're just getting too excited, and we got to keep going.
Yeah, right. We have 3 tournaments left. Let's power through them, people. So first place WAF, big surprise. We also see Weewa, not surprised there either. Then we see multicolor Une, or so the name says. Nope, it includes an Une. Okay, we're not being misled. But we see a Genesis Avatar?
Remember when this deck came out, it was definitely a eyebrow raiser.
Yeah.
Because we see a very interesting monster lineup of 3 Magic Pot, 3 Scale Toad, 3 Luminous Puma.
Wait, which one are you looking at?
Oh wait, are we looking?
You're
at
looking
the
at
same
Turbo.
one?
No,
were
we're
there
looking
2
at...
decks using? Oh, you're looking at Turbo Frog?
Oh my god, 2 decks were using Genesis Avatar. I was looking at multicolor Une.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense in both of them, really.
But one runs all summons, one runs all monsters.
Yes. But still, like, yeah, because this one's not running Une, but it instead is trying to Magic Pot in more cards.
Yeah.
Very interesting. God, it's so weird seeing, like, 0 summons. And this entire deck is 3 ofs. We've got 3 of Lucretius, 3 of Renoa, 1 Kuja, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. Like, constant 3 ofs.
I mean, the consistency is
but
real.
Both of these decks... Yeah. Both of these decks are nuts.
If you can't search it, you better friggin' draw it.
And Fire Ice is Fire Ice 6 again. It's still nice to see this deck just kind of pop up.
Yeah. The Ice Wind with Vaughn focus is pretty dope. A lot of these decks were really expensive too.
Yeah.
It was a very pricey event. Hope the entry fee wasn't too steep either.
Yeah, but wow, this Ice Wind deck is spicy.
I just pulled it up. Yeah, it's pretty hot. The one of Adele.
The Kane?
The Time Mage in front?
A Time Mage in front? Well, Time Mage...
I mean, it makes sense.
It's a weird Time Mage because it was a Time Mage that saw a lot of play in Vice Kings. Entirely because, the Dull and Freeze ability is just so strong.
Yeah.
But to kind of see it in here is still weird. It's still... I feel like this whole deck is, I'm going to make you discard, and I'm going to put your stuff down so I could just swing in with my Adele, so I could swing with my Canes. And then whatever you want to get rid of, I'll flicker, or if I really want an ETB again, or if I just really want to capitalize on that Vaughn, I'm just going to flicker that Vaughn.
Tons of options here.
Yeah, very good deck, very interesting.
Absolutely. But moving on from this tournament, I think, unless you have anything else to add.
Let me look at it really quick. That was the mini Vaughn list. No, we still see a good variety here, and that's what I really like to see. I always like to see a very colorful top 8, and this deck delivered. Even if WAF took it and Weewall was right behind it, seeing Turbo Frog, Une, Ice Earth, Ice Wind, it's nice to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But Ender's Game Summoner's Cup wrapped up there, and now we're moving on to toward the end of February with the Ice Crystal Cup in Madrid. So we're over in Spain now, and man, we're only one number off from being all twos in the date.
Yes. Yeah, so close.
So close. Um, so we have 67 participants, and here we see a pretty good spread until you get to the bottom three of top eight. Because 4 decks here are Weewa.
Yeah. At the top, we got Rampier, obviously.
Yep.
It's running the Eldmarsh build, which is really cool to see. I always love just seeing the Paradise builds.
I respect it. I mean, I run it, so.
Yeah. It's fun.
It is fun.
It's interesting.
It's cool. Then second place, Weewa. Third place, Mono Fire.
Yep.
And then fourth place, Zantetsuken.
Yeah.
And then Waff, and then 3 Weewas.
Yeah. This is, now that I'm looking at it, like, this is just a lot of stuff that we're used to seeing. Like, I'm kind of flipping through the builds, and I'm not seeing anything too spicy. This Mono Fire is running some interesting choices. Opus 10 Furion, Opus 10 Soldier 3rd Class, 2 Zand instead of 1. But still a lot to kind of gawk at. A lot of very interesting choices.
Yeah, for sure.
I think both of us just want to move on to the next tournament. No offense, Madrid.
So.
No offense. That was a cool tournament and all, but we got to get to Hometown Hero. We got to get to the Illinois Summoners Cup in Elmhurst.
This was the last major tournament before the coronavirus COVID-19 situation became basically world halting.
Yeah. And see, it was interesting because like there was rumbles of that at the tournament, and we were a little worried about it getting canceled. This is before it really took off.
Yeah, I was gonna say that when we were there were very few people who seemed to be going out. The whole town. My sister actually went to college there, and so did my girlfriend at one point. And that area was not bustling like usual. It was dead empty.
Yeah.
And
that was. It was weird because they were having a St. Patrick's Day event like the week before St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, they were celebrating early. It was
going to get canceled.
Yeah.
And
even
the whole
then,
tournament.
I was gonna say, even then, it was not as bumping as we expected it to be.
Yeah. And then before we really get into like the deck analysis and stuff, once again, quick shout out to Nick. He ran a great event. Amazing event. It was a lot of fun. It was all in a bar, which I was worried about, but it really worked out. Like the staff was great with us. We were really able to find tables. It was kind of funny, like having these tournament games at like small tables, or we had the large table that
Yeah, the
a lot of people were at.
Beerheads. The staff was waiting on us. Like between games, like you'd finish up a game and they'd be right there next to you. Hey, would you like a drink? Do you want some food? Need some water or anything? You want me to fill this for you? Whatever. Like on top of it, it was great.
Yeah.
They were.
I still remember.
Cool.
What was it? We were between rounds and we were like playing a game, and I was like, "Hey, can I get a cup of chili really quick? I'm really hungry." And we were like playing while I was like shoveling chili into my mouth, like with one hand.
The only downside I found was that I dropped part of my deck on the floor at one point because one of the tables was wobbly and my sleeves got all sticky.
Yeah.
But luckily I had 100 of that pack of sleeves, so I just replaced them. It was okay.
Yeah, but okay, so let's get into the real what everybody came here for. Really.
Let's start from the bottom on this one.
Okay, so starting from the bottom, before we get here, we've got Adam Krieger with an Agrius build. 31-man tournament. I think we had one person drop.
No, we were one person. I don't think made it in time.
Okay, because I remember I thought we were at 32. But anyway, so we've got an Agrius list. In this episode, it's been a little bit since we've seen an Agrius list. It's been since about Worlds. I think we saw one after Worlds.
One or two. I think it was 2. Yeah.
And this is kind of what we're expecting. We're seeing the Vikings. We're still seeing Layla's being played. He put a Minwu into the backup lineup, which is a little bit of spice, to kind of help against Weewall, which I'm sure he was expecting to play against a lot.
This is before Kuchespel with Opus 11. So remember, that hadn't happened yet. By the way, this was early March, if that wasn't obvious by us talking about the event.
Patrick's Day.
Yeah, right. So continue, Ty. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no problem. But otherwise, it's just cool to see an Agrias deck, really. It didn't have anything too crazy in it, just a lot of the stuff that we expect to see, Vayne, Renoa, Layla, Kuja, Cloud of Darkness, etc., etc. Do you have any comments on it?
No, nothing really. I mean, you kind of touched all the points that are necessary here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tight deck with a lot of good stuff. It's a deck that doesn't really need summons or care about them because its focus is on, what sticks on the board.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that's about it. So we'll move on to E-Man.
To JoJo's reference, because it's E-Man. Notorious B.I.G.
That's not a JoJo's reference, not directly.
I know E-Man enough to know that's a JoJo's reference. That's a Part 5 reference.
I mean, okay. Fine.
Yeah. Trust me, I know.
Anyway, so we see the full rainbow here. We get a little of everything.
We've seen some Golbez builds up till now this episode. And he just has like this. He's running that Golbez build, but he put out a slip and slide and just put all the kitchen soaps on it. And he's just making that just slide, just speeding it up as fast as possible. Because obviously, I talked to him a little bit about it. I heard him and Brian talking about it. The whole point of this deck was to get Golbez into hand turn 1. So you're seeing the 3 Prish, you're seeing 3 Prish to add Prish. You're seeing the 3 Aldo to add Golbez. What else was it? I know that there was at least one. And 2 Gabranth to search Golbez. Like, his goal was, I gotta hit Golbez ASAP.
Yep. No, the chances of hitting a Golbez were significantly increased here.
Yeah.
Odds were very low that you would miss it.
Yeah. And obviously it worked. He got to top 8 with it. And when he pops that Golbez, and when you have to face down I think his board was usually Larsa, Ritotten, Luso, and White Tiger Lassie. Because you couldn't play summons or White Tiger hits you. Ritotten is big enough that you can't really deal with it. The Larsa just stops you from being able to just Valifor the board. And then the Luso is just a stone cold killer.
Yeah, Luso is just gross.
I remember him being like this card that we were freaking out about when he got spoiled. And he didn't really do anything.
I threw it in my mono wind with Yuri. And it was nice. It was useful. But it just doesn't perform as well as people would like. Like, it's a TA2 card, which is cool. So it's searchable, and it's got some synergies going on. But ultimately, it's a card that competitively just didn't function that well. But here we see it kind of breaking that mold.
Yeah, it was a beast in Golbez. It really was. Definitely a highlight in Golbez.
Did you play against this one time?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It was interesting. We'll get to it. I feel like after we talk about all the decks, we'll talk about kind of our experience.
Okay, that's
a
fair.
little bit.
Yeah.
Because this is the first one that we've covered that we actually competed in.
This is true.
Outside of, I think we covered the ASEN tournament ages ago.
No. We talked about it casually, but we never actually gave a full overview of the event.
So, so this is the first one that we've literally competed in. This is one that we put our own blood, sweat, and tears into. So we'll kind of get more into it after we cover all the decks.
Yeah. So we can move on from this one to Chuck.
Yep. So Chuck
Modifier. So shout out to Chuck. He's been running this build since forever.
Fire since Opus 2.
Yeah. I've seen and met him at probably like 6 events now. I first met him probably when was it? It was a couple of years ago, I think. I know he came to one of the events at the shop I work at to compete in one of the qualifiers. He did pretty dang well. I think he made it to top 4 or top 8.
4 because there was a mono fire matchup in top 4.
Yeah. And then
And it was nuts.
bumped into him at ASEN again. Then bumped into him at a couple other things. Bumped into him at the next qualifier that we hosted at the shop. And then saw him at the Bahamut Brawl. And then we saw him again here.
Yeah.
So he's been running this deck for a while. He knows what it does, and he's just continually changing it, adding to it. But he's a mono fire player who refuses to give up the color. Man's seeing red.
He knows red inside and out. Chocobo Joe told us, he was like, whenever I need fire advice, I talk to Chuck. Like, it was Chuck's idea to start running Royal Ripeness to the mirror.
Yeah.
And it clearly shows. Like, Chuck just knows every fire card, like, inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whenever he puts together a deck, you're not surprised to know that he literally ran through every possible, like, combination of that deck in his head.
Yep. He probably just sat there, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he just downloaded all the images of every fire card, and then some of the dark and light cards, and he's like, all right, what do I do?
Yeah.
And he just sifts through them casually while he's like on the train or something.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, this mono fire deck really shows that. It really shows, like, everything, like, all these numbers are so precise. 2 Bergen, 2 Vivi, 2 Furion, 3 Lon, 1 Zell. Like, these are all things that he's thought of, like, time and time again. Like,
for a fire player, these are cold, hard decisions.
Yeah, cold, hard decisions that have, like, literal years behind each decision.
Mm-hmm. So respect
but yeah,
to that.
a really solid mono fire deck. It's not running the Ifrita package, which we're very used to. And it's still running just weird cards like Ignacio and Lon. Like,
I mean, really though,
just
he's
love to see
sitting
him.
here and he's acknowledging, yeah, most decks don't have monsters. There's some outliers, but he probably didn't expect to need to beat the monsters. So he doesn't need to worry about that. So he's got Zell for that, and
and Emerald.
Yeah, and Emerald. And it's like, okay, everything else, just push forward to hurt things.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, we light the dynamite and we toss it.
Yeah.
And then we hurt things. So good for you, Chuck. Cool dude.
Yeah.
And that deck is $63.
Yeah.
Like,
mono fire is definitely
on top
budget.
of being good, mono fire, it's cheap.
Yeah.
So then we see a Weewa from Michael Wilkie.
Yeah. So this isn't. I don't want to dismiss him because he did very well in the tournament and he does have some interesting choices. But it is a lot of Weewa that we've seen.
Yeah. I think Alexander is an interesting choice here that was thrown in. We didn't see that in a lot of other decks. We see an optional Minwoo at 2. I mean, we see the mix of Yunas here. But everything else is pretty standard for a Weewa, so, keeping that going.
Yeah.
Still showing that Weewa has his place.
I think that the Alexander is a little bit spicier than I anticipated. Like, being able to just kill a monster when monsters are slowly becoming more important.
True.
Like, once again, it's kind of a standard. I don't want to call it a standard Weewa build, but it's a Weewa build that we've seen. It's a Weewa build that we're familiar with.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mixed up Weewa. I mean, yeah, you're right. The choose a monster, just break it is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, it just won't be. Yeah,
and on EX too.
Yeah,
Opus 4.
And even on hitting the X and just drawing a card is super nice.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, so that's a solid one.
Right.
Definitely a worthy deck. So now we're moving to third place.
Yep. To third place. So we've got... are we moving on to third place?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, in order
I thought we were
here.
going to literally hold it off.
No, I'm not going to be...
fourth
no.
place with easy winner of best deck name of the tournament.
We have Waff.
Is... Screw you. So fourth place was, we might as well just come out with it. It was me. I came in fourth this
I
tournament.
couldn't tell from the player name over here.
Yeah. So I entered with my favorite deck, the deck that I'm known for, Earth Ice. I called it Oshite Shantoto Sensei. And I even requested Nick put me in his ShantottoCast tie to kind of promote our channel a little bit. But yeah, so this is my deck. I kind of went into this tournament. I wasn't expecting to do super well. I wanted to see what my deck could do in Opus 10. We got the starter deck, which I think is worth noting. So we did have some Opus 11 cards. We neglected to mention that E-Man was running Don Corneo.
Correct. Yeah, the dual decks for Final Fantasy VII Remake just dropped right before this event.
Yeah, so Kadaj was a very real threat this tournament. Kadaj was also an E-Man's deck. Don Corneo, we saw a couple of. And in mine, I was testing out K-Siths at the time. So I want to be professional about it. The notes on this one are extremely unprofessional. But sorry, I have to. But going through my deck, I've changed it up a little bit because Opus 11 has since dropped. But my main point of this deck was it's ice shenanigans with the backup plan of wiping the board with Shantotto. And that's what this deck did. I'm running some hard removal in Sid Austin, Cecil, Shantotto, obviously. I'm running 3 Star Sybil. I'm using Lock, Nag, and Jesse to help thin my deck to get those Sephiroths, to get the Flan engine going. I've also taken a cue from previous decks where I'm running 3 7-drop Sephiroth and 2 3-drop Sephiroth just to make sure I can always get the special off. But otherwise, I feel like it's a lot of what Earth Ice is used to. It's nothing crazy. I think my only actual tech choice is Tama.
Yeah, Tama's hot.
Which allowed me to Shantotto on the opponent's turn, or to Sephiroth on the opponent's turn, and that came up quite a bit more than I'd like to admit. But it was still a very fun play. Or I even Genesis someone on their end phase, which was a huge feel good for me. But yeah, I'm not gonna put myself on a pedestal about this. Do you have any comments on it? That's just kind of
well. If you're not gonna do it, I will, because I walked away from this tournament very proud of you. I told you in the car that I get to watch you kick ass and really, strut your stuff and show that, yeah, you get to actually have a competitive experience and prove that, at least one of us, and it's not me, has a presence in the in the higher tier community.
I thought you were gonna say at least one of us knows what we're talking about.
Oh no, we don't. No, don't kid yourself, Ty.
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
But no, I've played against this deck with you. I've helped you
100 times, yeah.
I've helped you brew it a little bit. We've bounced criticism off of each other for 2 years now, and this is we're not just casters at this point. You've proved you can show up and you can take a couple names, and you didn't win, but we had a really good time hanging out with some of the actual pros, and chilling. And it was just a great event, good time, and you came close to winning. So good for you, man.
And the one thing I do want to point out is we're looking at this top 8 right now. Out of top 8, I beat 3 of these players in the tournament before top 8 and even during top 8. I was the one who knocked E-Man out, which was a huge psych out moment for me. I played against Chuck round 4 or 5. I lost to Chocobo Joe round 6, I think, but I still made top 8, obviously. And I beat Maverick round 3. Yeah, I beat Maverick round 3, and he ended up taking the whole.
Yeah, because he was worried he wouldn't make it to top 8, right? And then he did.
About it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it all depended on my tie breaks.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah, but I had good tie breaks because of it, and because I had good tie breaks, he had good tie breaks. Then I think he beat someone else who ended up in top 8.
Yeah,
I think he
did.
Beat. I want to say he beat Adam.
I don't know for sure off the top of my head, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna repeat a question that somebody else asked you. I forget exactly who it was. I think it was E-Man. What do you do against Ranpair decks, Ty?
I don't play against them.
Exactly.
That's my secret. And I'll go into really quick. I ended up coming in fourth in the tournament. I lost to Stu Weiss, who came in second. He was running Rampier. That was a big question that the highlight of the tournament for me was playing against E-Man, and I had an amazing match. I had an immaculate matchup. Like, that was such a good matchup in my favor. I feel like if E-Man was playing any other deck, it would have been twice as hard. It would have been a complete uphill battle. But the fact that I was against Golbez was just like, oh, okay, cool. I just get to play and, shut him down.
Yeah, because you're both good players. But no offense, Ty, one of you made it to Worlds.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I 100% once again, if he was running any other deck, it probably wouldn't have turned out this way.
Honestly, if I were in your shoes, I would have expected a loss for myself anyway, just because of who I'm playing against. Deck irrelevant.
100% I was just like, oh, he's running Golbez, he can overwhelm me. This is a matchup I'm not super familiar with. I was kind of down on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a very close game one where I did make a mistake where I killed his Golbez when I could have removed it from the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't. I just forgot to make the play. And he almost took it, but I was able to shave his board down to, I think, one dull forward, one active forward with two forwards up. And I, for the first time ever, played the 2-drop Earthflawn to make him not have enough to make that forward block. And then I was able to swing in and win.
Nice.
And then the second one was Veining when he played Gilgamesh and Golbez, and then that was just... But I don't want to talk about too much. We still need to keep the tournament going. But yeah. I had a lot of fun. I did great. I'm still a little surprised by it. Maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit. But let's move on to Chocobo Joe.
So this is
showed up with WAF.
Pretty good WAF deck, unsurprisingly. It's
yes.
It's one of the Envy Games guys. They brew a lot. But we're running the odd Vincent here, the Opus 9 Hero Vincent. That's the one thing that stands out to me.
It surprised me. It's a really great card, and there are backups that you want to break. You want to break up your loose that you can't really use, your Rorik, to get the reuse out of him.
Yeah, girl who forgot her name. You can get rid of your even the Meath once it's down.
Yeah.
So
targets for that Vincent. So I think that was a very good check choice.
Yeah, definitely is. It's a great one of. I would put it at 2, honestly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what do I know? I didn't get top 4.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, I mean, otherwise, pretty normal WAF stuff. I mean, Kadaj is a new tech, so that's in everybody's decks now, because it's a friggin' good card.
Because what surprised me is he was running Kadaj over Hein, who Hein saw a lot of play this tournament.
True.
He was in a lot of decks.
He
was in almost as many decks as Kadaj was. But the thing is, in WAF, he's Hein's the go-to over Kadaj. But I still think the Kadaj was a very good choice. It's an insanely good card.
Definitely agree. But moving on from something we know to something a little bit might still put some salt on Ty's tongue.
Yeah.
We have Ranpair.
I can only be so salty about it. Number one, he was a great player. Stu was amazing. In our first match was very close. Our second one, not so much. But he's running a good Eldnarsh build, or a Paradise Rampier build, really. And it's a lot of what we kind of expect to see: Felthanos, Fasoya, Shantotto, Prish, Cloud of Darkness. He wasn't able to get Paradise off on me, which I'm happy about. But I do like that he was running 3-drop Squall, because we kind of see that on and off in builds. And 3-drop Squall in this deck is such a powerhouse.
I think it fits very well.
Yes.
So especially with that Vincent, 3-drop Squall, dull something. Okay, now here comes the Vincent. No.
Yeah.
It hits. It smacks.
Yeah. And we were already seeing the Opus 11 tech. He was running a single Reeve to search out one of his 2 Katesets.
Mm-hmm.
Kateset is good enough of a card that you do want to search it out.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, as some of our other professional players have told us, whether it be Final Fantasy or other card games, information is your most powerful tool. Because if you know something, you can play around it. If you know something, you can play into it, or you can do something about it. So
yeah, Yeah, this was a very, very solid build of Rampure. I feel like it's like a Rampure build at the end of Opus 10.
Yeah. So this
Just tons of good
is.
tech choices.
Yep. No, this one is yeah, it's solid. There's nothing to complain about. I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I'd put Fasoya at 2 and Felthanos at 2.
Hmm.
I wouldn't change much else. I like it.
Yeah. A big thing is people are now playing around Falthanos.
Yeah. But like
But at the same time I see where you're coming from.
it's
Card
if you
advantage
can ramp
more.
your backups, it's a scary early game threat.
It's true. That's very true.
So, but moving on,
Yeah.
we then have first place, our
Maverick.
one and only Mr. Sharks.
Yes. And he is quite the card shark.
Indeed.
Canned laughter.
Dun
But yeah.
dun.
Shut up. But Maverick's really good. He's been playing WoF, as you've seen since Bahamut Brawl.
Mm-hmm.
At the very earliest. I know he's been playing it, or at the very latest. I know he's been playing it earlier.
Yeah.
I think he was even a little ahead of the curve before Worlds. But it just shows up with a solid as hell build. We're seeing one of the 2-drop lands, 2 of the 3-drop lands. Which is something that not a lot of people like to go for. I personally love it.
Yeah, it's a great card.
Yeah, like people really underestimate how many things that land can dip under.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Scary card when it's hasty.
Yeah, no, this is a very respectable build.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this final match from afar, and
Yeah.
every single turn was, "Hey, judge, can I do this? Can I do this?"
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
was just, "I need to optimize every single, CP I spend," and he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, Maverick. That's a great thing about Maverick, and why he's so good at this game is he's able to just find the optimal play, just the most value play, just constantly.
Yeah, he's one of those players who overthinks, but it's not a detriment to him. It's actually a
Yeah.
benefit in some way. It's a boon.
Yeah, he's definitely playing chess. He's thinking 3 steps ahead,
Yeah.
4 steps ahead, 5 steps ahead on every
Mhm.
one of his moves, and that's what makes Maverick such a great player.
Yeah, no, a great player, funny person,
Yeah.
really interesting, just character overall for sure. And this deck
Yeah.
definitely shows some of that personality.
And yeah, so that was the Elmhurst Summoners Cup. I feel like the only thing I should bring up, I mentioned earlier that I beat Maverick.
Yeah.
And I will admit, he said this to me, and I 100% agree with him. He said, "You're the luckiest man I've ever played against." And, like, mind you, I didn't take that as an insult. I 100% understood what he said, because early game, when we're both kind of setting up in the first couple turns, he pitched a Rain to play it backup, and I knew he had a Rorik in hand that would have been a neg if he played it. So I was like, okay, I know he has Rorik in hand. He's going to fetch that Rain back. So I overextended a little bit and played a Kadaj, remove the Rain.
Oh,
We go through the game. He builds up a 4 forward whiteboard. And I Shantotto him. I'm like, I gotta get rid of this board. And he's like, okay. So he scoops up his board, removes it from play. So that's 2 Rains out. We keep going. He builds up another 4 forward board. Star Sybil into damage. Star Sybil search Shantotto. He either hit Star Sybil or Gabranth. So I was able to search either Kuja or Shantotto. I break my Shantotto with Kuja. Sorry, I still can't believe that I did this. Pop both of them, and then play another Shantotto, remove his last Rain from game.
filthy.
You removed all of my Rains. He's like, you've gotten rid of all of them. What the hell? And, like, it was true. Like, he wasn't wrong to say that I was super lucky. Like, every turn I had an answer, and I had no idea how. Like, my deck just, like...
I'm gonna say that's your
called
deck,
to me.
Ty.
Yeah, my deck was just like, by the way, you're going to get the perfect draw right now. You're going to get the perfect draw right now. Like, don't worry about it. Here you are.
I had my 2 games of Heart of the Cards early on, and then once I was knocked out of the tournament, I gave it to you. I passed it on and made sure you had that little extra bit of friendship spirit to push up to where you got.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And the last thing I can brag about the tournament is I built an L3 deck the night before,
Oh yeah.
and I was expecting not to make top eight, so I was like, maybe I can at least win L3. And a friend of ours, Tim, shout outs to Tim, said, "Oh, I want to enter L3, but I don't have a deck." And I was like, "I made top eight. Do you want my deck?" And he won with. He came in second with it, and it was a deck that I built like 12 hours prior.
Yep.
Not looking at the L3 section, but the L3 section was also really cool. And then once again, just a shout out to Nick of NV Games. He ran a great event.
Yeah, no, good time all around.
Yeah.
In the lower bracket, because that's not represented in the top 8 here, what I bumped into, I don't remember what you bumped into in the lower early brackets of the Swiss, but I played against a mirror match. I played against a very updated 7 tribal deck, which was... That whole game was 300 IQ plays. We tied round 1.
Yeah, I saw that game. That game was intense.
Yeah, we there were multiple times of just okay board wipe, okay board wipe in my favor, back and forth. We made it to the end, and we confirmed with a judge that neither of us could produce lethal. We could at best end the game in 6 damage each, and so it was decided that it was a draw, not only because of that, but because we went into time. Round 2 and 3, I won both those. Round 3, I won off of a gorgeous top deck of an Alba, which was given haste because my opponent had swung in for putting me at 6 damage. So I got that game by raw luck, which is hilarious. A Hail Mary at best. And and then rounds 4 and 5, I just got absolutely pub stomped. Played against Brian, and Brian Garrity gave me the old the Rolf fish slap from Ed and Eddy. Just showed me who owns all the chickens, because man, that son of a shepherd, jeez. Yeah, he used what was I forget the name of the card. I know what the effects were. It was the new Azul. I put him at 4 damage a little too quickly, and he turned it around and put me at 7 damage rather quickly. And then my final game, my deck just gave me every possible bad draw every single turn, and my opponent had every single correct answer every single time. So whether or not I had any skill was irrelevant, which, I mean, I don't, but that's not the point. And so he legit just stomped me. We both signed the sheet, and he walked off, and that was it. I was like, okay, cool. GG, dude. And then I watched Ty get to top 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, so it was a good event. We saw some meta. We saw some kind of rogue decks. I do remember my progression through the first part of the tournament. I've played Avery's Mono Lightning. I played against Mono Earth. I played against Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chocobo Joe, where I lost, and then made it into top 8. Played against E-Man, and then had to play against Stu.
Yeah. Because in the lower...
It was just a good run.
Yeah, no, it was...
Sorry, I just want to say it was a good run.
Yeah, it was great. For sure. Yeah, because in the lower bracket, some of the other spice we saw. Our buddy Jake brought his ice. Did he play with his ice wind or his ice water? Yeah, he played with his ice water. And it was all right. Aaron played with his chocobos, had a good time with that, relatively speaking. Tim had his weird Une deck, which threw a lot of people for a loop. He almost made top 8, but just barely didn't.
Yeah. He forgot a Doga trigger, I think, and that was like the big thing that stopped him. He came in second in L3 though.
Yeah. Nice. So and then what else? Oh, Jesse had his funky all the good stuff deck.
I like to call it Enter Combat Phase Tribal.
Yeah, basically.
Eventually, we talked to them and we eventually want to do deck profiles on their decks.
Yes. So we should
I think we're
actually
going to wait till
probably
they
do
update them for Opus 11, though.
Agreed. But yeah, so and there were a lot of other players we didn't get to interact with. I had a lot of mirror matches with Ranpair stuff. I have a weird build of it with the Warriors of Darkness in it. That's just because I choose to like Warriors of Darkness and I like to suffer. So that's my problem. And then a lot of other people had, I think I saw a couple mono lightning, a couple mono winds. And yeah, it was just a solid event. So competing in that was awesome.
Yeah.
Regardless of performance, one of us obviously did better than the other.
Yeah.
But whatever.
You can tell we're very biased about this event because it was really good.
Yeah, it was cool. But moving on from that, we actually have some events that are missed because they haven't happened yet. The Chicago Summoners Cup, hosted by Good Games, was going to be on March 28th, but that got pushed back because of the COVID situation. The Marlboro Cup sort of followed, but it ended up being an online pre-release casuals, which it's whatever.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's cool. And then the World of Ruin Cup failed on the 4th. Multi-factored. There were a lot of things that went into that went right and went wrong, but it was handled as best as it could have been.
The biggest thing that went wrong is that Octagon just
the servers had an issue or something, and they did issue refunds, which is big of them. The hosts.
Shout out to them.
It wasn't Octagon who had the event, right? But the hosts did issue a refund for everybody, so good on them.
Yeah, good on them. But I think that finally concludes this episode.
That wraps us up. I think I'm going to split this into multiple parts.
I would suggest that.
It's 3.5 hours.
We need to split that into like 4 parts.
I'm thinking about the same thing.
All right. Yeah.
So
we'll upload that. That'll give us a little bit of a gap. We'll talk about this afterwards.
Sure.
But thank you for listening. If you listen to all 4 parts, this is probably the last part. Thank you so much. I don't know how bored you are to go through all of these. But to be fair, I also recently watched a 4.5-hour lecture on One Piece.
Was it the PCP guys?
PCP guys.
Oh, you cut out. What was that?
Yes, it was the PCP guys.
Cool.
Yeah,
all right.
But
thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Coffee links in the description.
And we'll catch you guys later. Hopefully, maybe, probably, kinda.
Yeah, when we have a much shorter episode.
Yes.
All right.
All right.